And here I am, live, with my Italian design glasses instead of the other ones, which I preferred because I screwed up and broke those by stepping on them when I was working on the roof. Which we had this leak. I've had this leak for a while since we put the wood stove chimney in. I'll just wait here for a couple of minutes until a few more people show up. Hello, Caleb. Yes, right on time. Oh, I forgot to plug in the microphone. So, oh, what's this going on? That's it. Let me do that. Hello, Cordell. Let me just plug this in and see if there. Is that okay? So, let me know. Hello, Woolly Ram. So yeah, I was working on the roof trying to fix this roof leak which we've had since we put in the stove up there, the wood stove pipe, and stupidly I took my glasses off because I thought, hey, no, I'm not using them now. I just put them aside and put them like on the part of the roof that I then later went to step on. So they're bust, and I'm back down to these very colorful version. But oh, Cordell Mitchell, $50 super chat, my friend. You do that almost every time I stream, and I'm really grateful for that. And here's what I'm going to promise you: that super chat is going into the 1911 fund. I know the kids have to eat, but like not every day, Hello, Backstabber. Thank you, Woolly Ram. Microphone's an improvement. So, yeah, and the guys who installed that pipe obviously did a crappy job of resealing the waterproofing, and I've done it now for the 4th time. I don't know if it's my being Catholic and therefore a propensity for not wearing condoms that makes it leak or what, but I have definitely rubberized that whole thing now. So thank you, sir. I appreciate the $50 gun fund, where that's like that's about 1/20th of the price of a gun fund. Your enemies have to eat lead too. Oh, bless you, sir. Bless you. So anyway, I don't know if the rural internet, or it seems like there's 2 then 4, and maybe some of you guys are popping in and out. Let me know if there's any stream problems. Hopefully not. But yeah, so that's why I've got these colorful glasses on today. Hopefully I'm gonna replace them with the rimless ones again, because I like rimless ones because I don't like to see this bit. Anyway, yeah, so this stream was going to be about guns. I did a post on the Colt 1911, and I was actually busy. I have a Remington R1 Enhanced in 1911. There are so many versions of 1911s, I'm not sure exactly what that looks like. But aside from the post I did earlier today on the Colt 1911, I'm actually in the current process of doing a kurganing of some idiot that left 2 comments, one of which I've published. The other one is just going to go straight to spam. But yes, of course, it has to be 45 ACP. Oh, Woolly Ram says 2 winters ago, a wall in the shop was leaking a waterfall right where the electric board is. Fun times. Oh yeah, I've had an apartment like that in London where the water was coming out through the light fitting. Yes, from the boiler that wasn't working. Hello, Chad. So anyway, the point was, if one of you guys is on Social Galactic or whatever, just let them know the stream has started. I usually do that, and I forgot to do it now because I was running about finishing up a couple of things. And anyway, yeah, so the roof thing. But now the Colt 1911 thing, the reason I wrote that post, and part of the reason I'm writing a kurganing on this idiot who left a comment, which is basically, oh, you're a boomer because you like Colt 1911 and revolvers and, a Glock with 17 shots. Oh, God. He's illiterate. He didn't understand anything of what I wrote, didn't comprehension zero. You know, one of those people that can't have an abstract thought and can't imagine what it was like if he didn't have breakfast that morning. ACP, auto, I'm not sure what ACP stands for actually. It's a good question. 45 ACP. Something, I think it's something automatic, something pistol. Let me just go and look. I'm gonna Google it. What does ACP stand for? What does ACP stand for in 45 ACP? Let's see if I was right and it had anything to do with something automatic. Automatic Colt pistol. There you go. Well done, Caleb. Yeah, I knew it was automatic something pistol. Of course, I didn't think about it. Colt pistol. Yeah. Now, anyway, the whole point is actually, as a shooter, ergonomics are extremely important for me. One of the reasons I never owned a 45 ACP Colt 911 is because naturally shooting, and by naturally shooting I mean like, you know, instinctive kind of, when you're in the thick of it kind of shooting, I tend to hold a gun pretty loose, and I've done this, you know, since I was a teenager. So I absolutely shoot better when the gun is moving, when I'm floating about and I'm just doing what I need to do. If I try and aim and go to the range and boom, 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 you know, I can get the target hit and whatever, but my accuracy is, you know, it's good, but it's nothing spectacular. Once I get used to a handgun that I use, you know, that I train with regularly, my best shooting is not done by aiming and doom, doom. It's done by instinctive shooting. That's where I actually get the bullets where I want them to go. And the way that I shoot in that way with a handgun is I tend to have a pretty loose grip. I went to a gun range in the United Kingdom when I was up there. You know, they don't have handguns. They've only got like little rifle, 2.2 rifles and stuff. And you know, I never go to shooting, whether it's indoor range, outdoor range, whatever, you know, even just with friends. I never assume, you know, I let the guys at the range tell me the whole story and tell me how to be safe, and I just shut up and, like, you know, do what I'm told, because it's pointless. You know, it doesn't matter how long you've shot. They have to tell you that stuff anyway, so just shut up, listen, do your thing. And then, you know, I was shooting and aiming, and the guy was like, oh, you're pretty good, you know, you're hitting the center all the time. And I'm like, yeah, this is not actually my best shooting. And he's like, oh, well, what is? And I said, do you mind if can I shoot my way? Like, can I shoot a bit quicker? You know, like, because it's England, right? And I went there with a woman I was seeing at the time. And I didn't want to, like, do something that, like, freaks them out or whatever. And he says, yeah, no, you can. I said, oh, okay, so thanks. And it was like a semi-auto little 2.2 rifle. And I just, like, started to go bam, 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 without, like, trying to aim or anything. Just, you know, and I chewed out the center of the target. I mean, it wasn't far away. I can't remember if it was 50 meters or something. It wasn't far anyway. Maybe 100 meters, maybe 50, something like that. And the guy was like, oh, how do you do that? And I said, well, natural shooting is what comes best for me. That's instinctive shooting, you know, just natural shooting. I'm trying to, like, concentrating on the target. I'm not, like, trying to aim and be... And when I do that with a handgun, I have quite a loose grip. And when I had tried the 45 ACP 1911, because I like ergonomically, the 1911 is beautiful. It comes up nice. It's got the nice heavy weight that I like, you know, so you can use the barrel almost as the weight of it becomes kind of like my aiming thing. But the problem was that grip safety at the back, I would sometimes not engage it. And so I would pull and I'm not shooting. And I was like, man, I'm not doing that. You know, I know how to shoot. I shoot accurately with the other pistols I use. I'm not going to get one that I'd either have to change how I shoot or, you know, wouldn't work for me in a stressful situation or whatever. So that's why I never owned a Colt 1911. But I still like them. I like the look of it. I like the feel of it. I like how it holds in the hand. And I'm not working as a bodyguard anymore and whatever. And plus, I've reached an age where it's like I don't worry about shit like that. When I was working as a bodyguard in South Africa, yeah, I actually, I'm not gonna go into the details of the stuff because whatever, I don't want to. But I did physically have people come to my house with guns to try and kill me. So things did happen that were serious, and and they could happen. And living and working there is a different story from living and working in Italy. It's like, and plus, you don't really have carry permits here. They're very rare. Like, you have to have some serious reasons to have them or whatever. So, but normally I don't really feel the need to go around armed in rural Italy in the middle of nowhere. And if there is a home invasion, I definitely have the time to like pick up one of the guns and whatever. So, but even if I were to carry a gun, just because whatever, let's say for some reason I got a carry permit and I just like to walk around with my 1911, there'll be plenty. I mean, what am I going to get attacked by? Feral Africans that are like on a rampage, or like, I don't know, Israeli Palestinians, whatever. People who don't like bald people. And so what? I mean, the way that I am now, it wouldn't be like a case of, oh, panic, shoot, shoot. It would be like a case of pull out, boom, one guy down, boom, one guy down. If you've seen the movie Unforgiven, it will kind of be like that. It's like, well, if you take me out, you'll take me out. And if you don't, everything that I shoot, I'm going to hit, because I'm going to take my time and just do it naturally and not stress about it. Same as like, I don't worry about getting into a fist fight. What was it that, I can't remember now if it was on the train or something like happened where I just thought, oh, what if I had to take this guy out? And he was a guy, 20 years younger than me, built, trained. You could see he was trained. And I thought, oh, that's it. We were waiting in line. I was waiting in line for some transportation or something. And, the guy was big. He was muscly. He was strong. He was fit. You could see he was trained. And I was like, oh, well, what if I had to take this guy out? And not by surprise. Let's say you just started to like go into one or whatever. I was like, oh, would I be worried? It's like, no, I'm not worried, which doesn't mean that I would win the fight necessarily, but that's not the point. It's like, I've done this a lot, I've done this enough that it's like, he's not going to have an easy time of it, whatever happens. And I don't have that hesitation thing that normal humans have because of training, because of how I grew up, because of how I lived, because of what I did. There's a guy on Social Galactic talking about, oh, well, I want to like maybe get like a pepper spray for women or whatever. I was like, why? You live in America. First of all, a woman is not going to train regularly. There's just 99% of them aren't going to do it. But if a woman is actually going to take the time to train regularly to draw and fire a gun, well, get her a real gun. You're in the States. You can. Why get her like pepper spray gun? It's just like, what the fuck? And some guy said, oh, well, she should always carry a knife. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Are you fucking stupid? Like, do you have any idea how messy, freaky, traumatic it is? Never mind you getting stabbed, which is obviously, but you stabbing somebody. Do you have any idea what happens when, if you plunge a knife into another human being and just slash, and it's actually a sharp, efficient knife? I don't think people realize at all what they do. A woman is not just going to do that. That you have to like overcome so many human psychological factors to do that nonchalantly or at least efficiently and keep doing it. Because you're not just going to do one. You're going to like, if you guys have seen Dexter, that's a nice sterilized environment and it freaks most people out, when he does the bad guys. In an actual knife fight, man, I'd rather be in a gunfight than a knife fight, quite honestly, if I have the choice, So, no, a woman is not going to use a knife against the assailant. What will happen is the guy will take it from her and then now he's armed, So, it's like, it's just stupid. So, you have to kind of know your situation and know your context. And what am I going to get attacked by in rural Italy? Well, maybe a wild hog. I could actually see that being more likely than being attacked by a human. You know, there's like, I know everybody in the village, everybody knows me. It's like what, some rampant, you know, druggie running around. And even if it is, he's not going to be armed 99 times out of 100. And if he is, it'll be with a knife or a brick or, you know, something like that, which, hey, I can pick up a rock just as easy as the next guy, or a chair, or a table, or, you know, an ashtray, or whatever's going in my surroundings. So it's like I'm not particularly worried about that. And that's why I was kurganing this guy, which I'll finish off the blog post about this idiot when I'm done here. But let me just quickly scroll through because you guys are being very participating, which I like. Caleb crushed it. Yes, he did. Automatic Colt pistol. I think there's a Glock auto pistol round too. Never seen one. Glock auto pistol. I've never heard of that. But, you know, there's all sorts of abomination these days. Cordell says, I just got done building out my AK-47. You see now, the AK-47, I know that that's an efficient thing. I know that it's, you know, you throw it in mud, you pick it up and it works. But I've never liked them. I just don't like the look of them. If I had to go submachine gun, let me think. I don't know. The caliber is good. I just don't like the way they look. I suppose some miscellaneous AR of some type, you know, I guess. But I'm not very fond of those. Oh, Stinky Peterson says, thoughts on the FN57? A little bit gimmicky, super expensive to shoot. And frankly, the ammunition is like hard to come by in, you know, in the generic apocalypse scenario type thing. And usually I like, you know, it's not a huge concern, but like I tend to prefer my guns, handguns, rifles, whatever, to have pretty standard ammunition calibers, because if you get like some fancy FN57, you know, it's like a very fancy round. I don't know, I haven't shot them, but I wouldn't buy one. It doesn't interest me. Wooly Ram says, sounds like Zen archery. Yes, it is. There's a very big parallel between archery and shooting a gun the way I shoot anyway. You look, there's guys that shoot really well and they don't shoot like me at all. I'm not dissing anybody else's way of doing things. I saw a video of a guy that was doing what they call a 9-ball exercise, because he's got like an 8+1 Colt 1911, one of the new ones, not the old ones. And he was doing like pretty long range. I think it was 100 meters or 50 meters or something. And he was just doing like bang, bang, bang. He was quick and they were going down range and he was hitting what he was hitting. And his style of shooting was, I don't know, I can't say without, you know, being physically near the guy, but it seemed to me like he definitely trained with that gun a lot, clearly. He was comfortable with it. And he probably had quite a different style of shooting from me. But, you know, it works for him. So that's what matters. It's not like, is my way the best? No, my way is good for me. You know, his way is good for him. My way is good if I have to do a snapshot in the bush to a running animal, or, you know, some guy hiding in the forest. I'm instinctive. I can, boom, go there, you know, with the rifle, shotgun, whatever. And, you know, I get cretins around here that shoot like 3, 4, 5 shots in a row. At what? I don't know what the hell they're shooting at. Like, you know, the animals around here are like, I don't know, chickens. You might as well shoot chickens. I think they're just shooting at like random birds or the clouds. It's, I don't know. Willie Ram says, can you get a variety of ammo in Italy? It's not as varied as in the States. Like, you can't, they've got limitations on you having like hollow point. You can't use hollow points. They're like only for the police, or, which is kind of stupid. You basically can use solids. you know, like Full Metal Jacket type ammo, like some wad cutters, you know, with a dead end or round or ball, you know, that kind of thing. But it's kind of dumb because, you know, it's supposed to be, oh, more humane and whatever, but it's not more humane because it'll go through whoever you're shooting at and go and hit 2 or 3 other people. But again, you know, in Italy, it's not a big, uh, you know, you don't have like gunfights happening regularly all over the place, so it's not a big deal. It's not a big thing. And the armed forces guys, I think, can use like hollow points and that sort of stuff. You know, it's not that they make it like all safe for civilians or whatever. Like the one thing at the range here, you can't have targets that have got like a person, you know, that they've got like silhouette of a human. Oh no, you can't have that. It's dangerous, it's traumatic, dangerous. They only use those things for the police, and they have to change them out before they let civilians into the range. It's like, what the fuck? It's just so stupid. They got like stupid little rules like that. But otherwise, you can. And I found out just recently. I was talking to a guy that told me they changed the law recently that in Italy you couldn't have. About 20 years ago, you couldn't have the ACP. You had to have like an HP, you know, high power or whatever version of the 45 ACP. And then 20 years ago, they changed the law. And for a long time in Italy, you couldn't have the normal 9 by 19 millimeter, or that two 9 by 19 and 9 by 21. So that like, because the 9 millimeter, the standard 9 millimeter handgun round was considered military, and they don't want civilians using military rounds, so they built the other one with the 2 millimeters difference, so it wouldn't feed in a civilian, so that the military round wouldn't feed in a civilian firearm. It's just dumb, stupid shit. But apparently they changed that last year. I didn't know. I was just talking to a guy that like told me. So that's kind of cool, because now you can get like normal 9 millimeter handguns, I guess. All the civilian version of the 9 millimeters in Italy were like built so that they could only feed the civilian version, which is again fucking stupid. It's the same round, it's pretty much the same specs, certainly the same diameter, so what's the purpose of it? Cordell says, I think they make version of the 911 without the beaver tail safety. Yeah, they do, and some people pin it. But you know, my purpose of having that is, again, I'm not working. I haven't worked as a armed close protection guy for almost, yeah, I'd say it's 20 years now. Like that, I've been in Europe, and you know, I haven't worked that way. You know, there's muscle memory still there and whatever, but you know, I like going to the range or doing some target shooting or whatever. And I just like the feel of the 1911, so I'm gonna see, you know, with your help. This is an impassioned cry for, you know, come on guys, I never beg you for money, but you know, man needs his 1911. So I can't really justify the expense to the wife and children, although I'm sure my son would appreciate it, but you know, he's 4, so probably, you know, I'm not supposed to tell him about the 1911, and certainly not let him shoot it because it's a bit too big and he's a bit too small and it's illegal, so I wouldn't do that. But you know, he'd understand. I'm just saying, the girls probably wouldn't, although, you know, if they saw their brother saying, Daddy, I like guns, they might go for it. But you know, anyway, the point is, I can't really right now, the way things are, I can't really justify like an almost $2,000 expense for getting the kind of 1911 that I like, because I like the original. I'm a Puritan at heart. I like the original 1911, which has got the, you know, straight back, doesn't have the rounded back strap, doesn't have the beveled entry into the trigger guard. And yes, you know what I'd really like is the original 1911 with a slightly larger beaver tail at the back, so that it doesn't like pinch your hand, although I don't know whether it would pinch my hand or not. But yeah. AE, hello. Cordals, yeah, Caleb says, what do you think about the 1911 platform for other manufacturers? there's so many variants. There's now the 2011, which is all fancy and new. There's a lot of like target pistols and that stuff. I don't like the new ones that are double stacked. The whole point of why I like the 1911 is its aesthetic look, and it's thin, and it's like, I don't know, it just feels good in the hand. Um, but you know, obviously the modern guns have got like much better triggers and so on. However, I believe there was what they call the 1918 replica, but by replica I mean a working, functioning firearm that was built by Colt as a commemorative version of the 1911. You know, and when I talk about the originals, there's basically the up to 1924 version of the 1911, which hasn't got the beveled trigger and has got the straight back at the back of the grip. And then there's the post 1924 1911, which was the one that was used in, you know, the Second World War instead of the First World War. And that one has got a slightly rounded additional piece at the back, although I believe you can swap that out. And it's got a little beveled, going towards the trigger, the trigger guard, towards the trigger mechanism, it's a little bit beveled so your finger can reach there easier. And it's got like some, what do you call it, some metal lines on the actual trigger, supposedly to help you be non-slip or whatever. But I just prefer the look and feel of the older one. What I would like is the look and feel of the older one, but obviously with all the accurized, you know, trigger mechanism, and so you make it softer and, you know, all that. So yeah. Hello, aged in the sun. Stinky Peterson says, hats off to the hoplites. Yes, okay, I kind of like the older stuff. Woolly Ram, 2.5 centimeter depth wound from neck to thighs will produce a lot of blood and can be lethal without treatment. Yep. It doesn't take a lot to like kill somebody with a knife. Second weapon fun for a boar hunting spear. These things are amazing. Second weapon fun for a boar hunting spear. These things are amazing. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Woolly Ram. Sorry if I didn't catch up when I was talking, but tell me a bit more. Fella says, thoughts on a 2011. I'm sure they are more accurate. I'm sure they're fancier, and they certainly hold more ammo because they got a double stack magazine. But I don't like them. I don't like the whole double stack thing. I don't like the flashy, fancy, colorful stuff. I just like my bog standard World War I, 1911, as used by Sergeant Alvin York, although he was only a corporal at the time, when he popped a bunch of Germans with it. It's the one I like. Any views on the situation in Israel? Okay, yeah, plenty. I've blogged on it, so go to g.filotto.com and you can see some comments there. We'll get back into that if you guys are interested in that. Caleb says, Unforgiven versus Tombstone. Well, now, I like both, but there's another film with Kevin Costner in it about Wyatt Earp, which I think is called Wyatt Earp, which I think had a slightly better take on the actual character of Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp is a character that is, well, let's just say close to my heart. For a bunch of reasons I'm not going to tell you about. But anyway, the thing is, the Tombstone with Russell, what's his name? The guy that's married to like the blonde woman that's got like the bird of a name, Twiggy, whatever. Kurt Russell, that's it. Kurt Russell. The Tombstone with Kurt Russell in it is maybe more fun, but I quite like the one with Kevin Costner. I'm not a big Kevin Costner fan, but I think he represented Wyatt Earp better in that film. I liked Unforgiven, but I think it was a little bit too dramatic, or like my dad put it when he watched it, and was like, yeah, okay, I'm all for taking your time, taking a shot, but man, it was just really a bit too slow. And, you know, my dad has also a lot of experience shooting a lot of handguns and a lot of rifles and a lot of shotguns in dodgy situations too. Yeah, so I agree. It was a bit too slow the way he like shot people, but as a generic principle, I understand what they were trying to do in that film, and it's not really wrong. The guy who keeps cooler generally wins. Um, there's another a really pretty good book that was written by Michael Crichton about dinosaurs in the Wild West. Forget the name. I read it recently, and I really quite enjoyed it. And there's a thing there about like shootouts, and it was very realistic because it's a clusterfuck. In actual real gunfights, you have no idea how messed up and people screw up and they get scared and they just shoot all over the place except where they should. It's weird. Tommy Hill says, find it hard to get good with a pistol. I'm good with a 22 rifle and 12 gauge shotgun. Average with 308 rifle. Tried a few pistol methods, but little improvement. Any advice on improving pistol skill? Look, pistols are dodgy. They're difficult things to master. With the and also if you're good with a 22 rifle, probably you might be a little bit recoil shy. You have to be completely desensitize yourself to recoil. That's with any gun you're shooting. Every time you pull the trigger, it should like surprise you. Also with a handgun, you need to keep squeezing the trigger. Most people will anticipate the shot by like flinching or like jerking the trigger or something. I still do it. I still do that. I haven't shot for a long time because I was in the UK and whatever. And then when I started picking up guns again, it was like, oh, what the hell? It was like checking myself out. And I'm like, oh, I'm actually like flinching a bit. So you have to train yourself out of that. And it's practice, 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 practice. There may be some things that you're doing wrong that is, I wouldn't be able to tell without watching you shooting. But it's really practice. But if you're good with a 2.2 but average with a 308, I think it's probably to do with the recoil. And you shouldn't be afraid of recoil. Recoil doesn't hurt you as long as your shoulder. Your worst case you get is a little bruise if you're shouldering it wrong. But I shot like a couple of hundred rounds of a 300 Win mag and I didn't even feel it the next day. So, practice dry firing also with a pistol. You can dry if it's a. Be careful. Depends on the revolver or handgun that you have. Some dry firing some handguns is not good for their firing pin mechanism, but some are okay. Like the Ruger GP100, the revolver, you can dry fire that all day long. It's not going to do any damage to it. But just to train yourself to stay level, because you're dry firing, there is no recoil, so you can check, and then try and imagine it. Okay, now it's got a round in it. Imagine it's got a round in it. How would you react to the boom? And then go to the range and practice with a round in, like dong, dong, and just watch what you're doing. Just go slowly, slowly, slowly. Keep squeezing until it goes off. Willie Ram says, you were mentioning it's more likely to be attacked by wild boars. I was suggesting a second fun for a boar hunting spear. Okay. Yeah, but I'm not going to walk around with a boar hunting spear either. I'm just saying, if I'm walking home at night for whatever reason, I left the car somewhere or I decided to go for a walk, we've definitely seen wild boars on my property. Like they come in at night, they're on the road. I've seen a bunch of them like running down the road. It's more likely that I get attacked by a boar than by a human being in this country where I am, because I don't know, say the boars have got little young and they've crossed the road and now I'm walking on the road between, say, the mother and the little ones. I'm more likely to get charged by a boar than I am by a human being. The fella says, I get that. If you could even find one. I can find one here in Italy. I could pick up one of those like decent, really, either good replicas of the actual 1911 pre-1924 version for under 2K. And I could pick up an original built before 1924 for under 4K. Look, 4K is just too much. I don't, if I was kind of earning what I was earning back in the UK for a year or two, yeah, then I would. But, But like just under 2K, come on guys, help me out. You know, I'll throw some in, you throw some in, you know, make a man happy, you know. Doesn't it count for anything? Yes, Kurt Russell, Caleb, thank you. Stinky Peterson, when it comes to firearm accuracy, I'm Wyatt Derp over here. It's just practice, man, and you know, somebody that needs to tell you, to give you proper instruction, because you know, it's a very common thing with men, especially. They go into the martial arts class and they're like, all right, I'm going to be Rambo and James Bond and like Schwarzenegger. Okay, what do I do? How do I punch? And you tell them, okay, you punch like this. And they try and do it their own way, and they think they know it, and they feel bad if they get it wrong, you know, and it's just stupid. Don't just listen to somebody who's good at it. You know, find a guy that can shoot properly. And, you know, guys that can shoot don't necessarily mean they can teach. But, you know, find a guy that start with, at least with a guy that can shoot well. And then ask him, hey, what am I doing wrong? Can you teach me? Can you show me? And be humble. Don't like think you know everything. You know, I go to the range. I listen to the guy that's at the range, whoever the range guy is. Maybe he'll tell me something I don't know. Maybe he'll tell me something I didn't figure out. I mean, when I went to the qualifier for the range, after I shot my first set, because you have to do like, you know, a handgun, you have to do a rifle to show that you're safe and that you can shoot and blah, blah, blah. After he saw the first set, he goes, yeah, well, I don't need to tell you shit. You've obviously held a gun before, because I think out of the 500 points, I scored 490 something. I don't know. So you're like, yeah, don't worry about it. Don't even talk to this guy. They just like basically like waved me through, sort of thing. You know, the guys, if they're good guys, if they know how to shoot, and if they understand guns, and if they understand people, which, you know, if you're a teacher of firearms, you go through you see a lot of kind of people. You see from the idiot guy that doesn't want to listen, to the macho man that doesn't want to listen, to the little old lady that listens and shoots better than the macho man who's been shooting for 15 years. My first wife, when I first took my first wife to the range, I took her to the range with a guy that I used to work with in close protection. And he was like, oh, well, you know, you have to do this, that, and the other. And I just told her in Italian, because she was Italian. I said, don't listen to a fucking thing he's saying. Just listen to what I'm telling you. Do what I'm telling you, and you're going to shoot better than him. And she was like, oh, yeah, you know that. I said, just do what I'm telling you. And I just told her, just relax. You have to see that the front sight in between the back sight, and then you have to put all of that where you want to hit, in the center of the thing. And she just listened. Bam, 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 bam. The other guy, this is the operator that I used to work with. He did his shooting, and she kicked the shit out of him. She, like, you know, did pretty much almost chewed out the center of it. She didn't have a single flyer, and he had like 2 or 3 flyers. He was like, but no, it's because I'm like, nah, we're done now. Just be quiet. Do not ever speak. You can't talk to her or to me about anything to do with handguns or firing or shooting. Just shh. You're so pissed off. I was like, yeah. And the only reason is because she listened. You know, she listened to what I told her, ignored the stupid, shitty advice that he was giving her, and it worked. Woolly Ram says they're preparing public opinion. Sorry, Woolly, I'm always a bit behind when I read. I don't know. What pistol carry position do you recommend? That's a very personal thing, but I'm hesitant to say anything, because my views of health and safety stuff are different from most people. And it's not because I'm such a superhero, it's because I know what I know, and I've practiced and trained in a certain way. Like, for example, the American thing of never having your finger in the trigger guard. I had this conversation with your average jumped up southern boy who thinks he's an operator, but isn't. Is a civilian who's fired a lot of guns and a lot of weapons, but still a civilian. And a special forces guy that actually has actively seen combat, you know, for, again, not just like he wasn't a cook he was actively special ops guy in active combat. And the American civilian guy was like, you have to keep your finger out of the trigger guard until you're ready to shoot, because that is the way that operator. And I'm like, this guy's just fucking stupid. And, you know, kind of looked to the special ops guy and, like, sort of aside, just said, you know, I don't believe in that shit. I think that's good advice for 99% of more 99.99 periodical percent of the population, it's good advice, because the average person is a fucking idiot. Remember, guys, we have 4 years of evidence. The average person is a complete fucking moron. So the average person absolutely should have his finger outside of the trigger guard, because otherwise he's likely to shoot through the wall, kill his own kid, shoot himself in the foot, shoot his wife when it's dark because he's scared, fucking miss everything and kill his dog or the neighbor or whatever. And yes, if you train him to keep it out of the thing, it's less likely that the gun's going to go off, that he's going to do some stupid shit. However, if you're a guy that actually lived with his gun, hello fella, thank you very much for the $10. I'll come to yours in a second. If you actually lived with your gun, used your gun in real life situations, real life and death stuff, and you know your weapon, which you must do, okay? I'm not talking about, oh, you own a gun and there's a break-in in your house and you somehow manage to defend yourself. Okay, that's one thing. But if you're day after day after day going into situations where you have a decent chance of getting shot or having to shoot somebody, you're going to use that gun. You're going to know that gun. You're going to know that gun really well. And depending on what that gun is, I am not going to have my trigger finger outside of the guard. I'm not. Because I know that gun. And I've been in shitty, hairy, fucked up situations, and I haven't misfired, and I haven't jerked the trigger because I suddenly got jumped. You know, my kids, my wife included, they try and, it's like the Pink Panther. They try and like make me twitch, by like, boo, jumping out of a corner or whatever. And they can't do it. And they're like, oh, how do you do it? I was like, well, I'm, over 50 and I've trained this way since I was a kid. So you're not going to freak me out. The same guy with like, martial arts guys goes, oh, I'm going to, woo! And they stop the punch. And I don't flinch at all because I don't have to think about it. My body's automatically knows when a thing is actually real or needing of movement or not. And the guy I used to work with as a close protection guy, he actually snuck up on me once when I was walking in the street and like pretended to stab me in the back, and he didn't get to do it. As he got close, and I couldn't see him, I was walking, but as he got close and I just turned around and held off his hand, because his intent was real. He didn't have a knife, but he was like, I'm gonna get him, and his intent was real, and my body picked it up. And this was long before I did any systema or trained in that stuff, but I was training hard at karate, and if you train hard at something, you get there anyway. So you have to like understand that my understanding of health and safety stuff is different from the average person. It's different from most civilian people that carry a gun. For example, the military carry, which for those of you that don't know, Italian rules are weird on handguns, so I'm not gonna hold anything, but imagine, okay, let me see if I can get some, okay, imagine this is the handgun, right? Imagine I'm holding it like this. So the military carry is at the back, but this way. So with your, the handle of the gun would be with poking out here. So that's called military carry, and you pick it up like this, you pull it out, and then you have to twist like that. But most people in a hurry would actually go like this, and they'd be traversing their own lethal organs. You don't want to get shot through the hip, out your balls. It's just not good. And so it's considered a dangerous way to carry a weapon. But if you practice, you can pull it out, twist it, turn, and you don't traverse your own body. So again, if you train to do it that way, and you don't traverse your own body, what's the problem, right? But the average person who doesn't spend like 2 hours a day for months and months and months and years throwing and firing. That's what I used to do. When I was working, I used to spend an hour a day, 2 hours a day, going to the range regularly every week, just throwing and firing, dry fire, go to the range, throwing fire. If you're doing that, then you get muscle memory. You're not going to traverse your own body. But the average guy, in a panic, oh, I'm carrying military carry because I'm cool, and now, oh shit, boom, and he shoots himself through the gut. So military carry is considered dangerous. Military carry is also depending on the gun that you have, can print more. If you got the butt of the gun sticking out a little bit, then it prints more. If you put it further back, it can actually conceal your gun very well. But what they call the paddle system is very similar, and so instead of carrying the gun this way, you carry the gun this way, which means that you have to, like, you reach for the gun this way, pull it out, you're not traversing your body, and you're ready to shoot. Military carry, you pull it out this way, it's a bit more complicated to not traverse your own body to point and shoot. What is the benefit of a military carry? The benefit of a military carry is that I can be standing here. Let's just put that a little bit higher so you can see my handsome face. So the benefit of a military carry is that, you know, I could be like talking to you. Let's say I've got a jacket on, and I say like, yeah, well, what do you want? What is it? And I've already got the gun in my hand, and you don't realize that I've already got the gun in my hand because I'm just standing there, right? The sort of paddle carry, I'd have to go like this, which is weird. It sets people off. It sort of makes them know that there's something weird. You know, guy standing like this is kind of odd. Guy standing like this is kind of like, fuck you what you want, and that's okay. You don't immediately understand he's got a gun. So that would be the benefit of a military carry. But again, it depends on the situation, right? Paddle carry for most situations is okay. Because if most situations happen suddenly and unexpectedly, you just reach, pull out, boom. And it doesn't have to, like, you know, if you're going into a situation where you think you might know you get shot already, or you're like in some undercover thing or whatever, then maybe the military carry would be an option. But, you know, most of the time the paddle carry is fine. Then there's people that have like a appendix carry, you know, they just put the gun sort of on the front of their pants. I don't like that position, and you know, I know that a lot of like new guns are especially quite safe. You know, even the Ruger I had was really safe. You can hammer that thing on the back of the thing and it'll never go off because the firing pin is blocked and can't actually get to the. It's got a little lever that has to go up. You have to pull the trigger for the firing pin to actually hit the firing the ammunition, you have to set off the round. But I don't like it because it's uncomfortable when you're sitting. If you have a big weapon next to another big weapon, it gets really uncomfortable. Two big weapons next to each other, you know, not good. So I don't like that particular carry, but maybe for women, maybe for a smaller gun, maybe it's a good idea, but I just don't like the idea of the you know, the muzzle of my weapon pointing generally at my dick area, thigh, leg. I just makes me nervous, regardless of the reasons. There are some situations where they under the cover, you know, under the armpit carry, but you have to, you know, really be practiced. It's slower than the other two things I told you about. And but there are some situations where maybe you have to do that. Especially for, like, you know, the James Bond gun, the PPK. I particularly like that one under here because it's like small, it's hidden. If you've got a jacket, it like doesn't print at all, and it's a small gun, so it doesn't swing forward if you get the right rig. So you can lean forward and it doesn't swing out. If you've got a big 45 hidden under here, and it's not properly secured, when you swing forward, it's just like, you know, moves your whole jacket. But I know of a guy that was like, you know, 70 kilos wet with a jacket who carried double Desert Eagles, like in shoulder rigs. And it's like, what the fuck? It's super excessive, completely crazy. But, you know, he was pretty well concealed. He was just like, and he wasn't a big guy, but you could hide. You can hide a much bigger gun under here if you've got a jacket on. Of course, you can't take your jacket off. You know, there are pros and cons to everything. And with a shoulder rig, you can, depending on your jacket, also, you know, just be like this, and you've already got the gun in your hand. Really, you just like cross your arms, go, oh, what do you want? And it's hard to see that you've got this hand already under your jacket, you know, and you're already gripping the gun. they usually have a pop button, and for me that is a big difference which way it pops. For me, it needs to pop to the left, and if it pops to the right, it's a pain in the ass. I want to get a different rig. But you can be like this and have the gun already in your hand. So even if the guy starts to draw, you're like, boom. And if you don't have the time, if it gets caught, again, you can just turn around and boom, you can fire through here. You make a hole in your jumper, but the hole you make in him will probably be worth it. So it depends on the situation. It depends what you're comfortable with. And above all, it depends what you train with, because you have to. Stinky Peter says, have you read the eyewitness accounts of the shootout at the OK Corral? Wyatt Earp was described as being as cool as a cucumber. I've been to the OK Corral, and look, I'm not going to tell you woo-woo stories because whatever, but yeah, he was extremely cool as a cucumber, and the man had a kind of burning rage to a certain extent that made him act the way he did, and he was very calm because he's like, fuck you, I ain't gonna twitch, I ain't gonna do nothing, and you are gonna go down or get out of my way. And that's kind of how it was. Wooly says a few comments up. Okay, Wooly, I'm still not sure what you're talking about then. They're prepping public opinion about what? Fella super chat, $10. Thank you very much, sir. Here's for the 1911. I prefer the 2011 mostly because I hate the grip safety. I don't like it either, but I like the 1911, and I just want to have one. It's not like I'm thinking, excuse me. It's not like I'm thinking, yeah, it's going to be my carry gun, be an operator. Like that idiot that I'm going to Kurgan on my blog. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just, I like it. And if I had to carry one, like, again, where am I? Am I working as a close protection guy that potentially has people that want to kill him because of the people he worked for or things he did or whatever? Yeah, then I'm not going to carry a 1911. I'd go back to my Ruger GP100 because with that thing, I know that whatever I point and shoot at is going down. And if I don't hit, I haven't been practicing for a while, maybe I'm not shooting as straight, it's fine. I'm not going to do the double tap that I used to do, which was head, body, head, body, head, body. And I could do that thing all day long, just head, body, moving, running, head, body, head, body, head, body. At 10 meters, I don't give a fuck who you are, you're dead. It's the same thing with like a certain punch that I have. Within a certain range, I don't care who you are. I'm going to hit you with this fist. And it's going to go either through your head or I'll break my hand or whatever. But you're not getting away from getting hit by this. And with that Ruger GP100, I know that at a certain distance, it doesn't matter who you are, I used to be able to do head, body. Now, I wouldn't take the chance. Because again, I'm more of a make sure you kill the guy rather than make sure you're pretty. I would go 2 to the chest. 2 to the chest or 1 to the chest, and if I see the hit, then I'll try for the second one to the head. But I'd switch it the other way around. But I make sure, even if you kill me, if you had a 357 go through your chest lung area, you're not walking away from that. It's going to fuck up your whole life. And ultimately, even if you get me, at least I got you too. But like a 357 going through you, yeah, you're gonna kind of stop. And in the blog post that where I'm gonna rip this guy into little pieces, I put a link there to like some really hardcore data about actual gunfights, one-shot stops, and all that. You have to read the whole thing because you have to keep things in perspective, understand the statistics. But if you can do basic math and think, then yeah. Stinky Peterson, precognition, seeing a few seconds into the future. That is a real thing. They're training special op guys to do that. That's in my book, the Sistema book. So if you go on my blog, g.filotto.com, and you look at the Sistema book, as far as I know, I'm the only guy that's written about that topic in depth. And I specifically wrote and had conversations with the guy who was training the people, a guy called Rollins, I think. Something Mac Rollins. I don't remember his full name. But yeah, it's an absolute thing. It's real. It works. I've experienced it. I've experienced precognition that literally saved my life at least twice in my life. And I've had it other times where it probably wasn't like a life and death thing, but twice it definitely was. It's a real thing. It happens. Man, Hugo says appendix carry for everyday concealment. Yeah. Dude, I'm not going to diss it if that works for you, but you know, accidental discharges happen, and I don't care what gun you got and whatever. And I just don't want any even tiny percentage of a hint of like an accidental discharge near my dick. It just, no. Like I said, 2 large weapons. I'm a pretty big guy. I've got big hands. I like full-sized handguns. That's a big weapon next to my other big weapon. It just doesn't mix. I don't want it there. Caleb says, I like appendix for concealment, but it's often uncomfortable. Its popularity seems mostly trendy. Look, if you carry a gun every day, comfort, you know, again, this is where I differ from most people. If you listen to a guy like Masad Ayub or most people that carry every day, they'll go like, yeah, you need to be comfortable because you carry it all the time. It's going to throw your hip out, the weight, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I was like, stop being a bitch. Who gives a fuck about comfort? Who gives a fuck about whether you can sit in every environment? Who gives a fuck about whether you look cool with your clothes? Who gives a fuck about whether you got the right shirt or, you know, I don't give a shit. The only thing I'm caring about, if I'm carrying, is that it's concealed and that I can get to it as quickly as possible without people knowing that I'm armed. That's the be-all and end-all of concealed carry. And I carried a gun every day for years. So, you know, did it sometimes give me problems? Sure. Sometimes I had sciatica from training and the gun wasn't helping. It's just like, it was a bastard of a day. Well, try and get some physio, go get a chiropractor and carry on. You know, what's the whole point, you know? Fella says, I want one too. I hear you, buddy. Which makes me all the more thankful for your $10 because that could have gone to your 1911. Although, if you're in the States, you have a lot better chance of getting one than I do. I love my CZ75. They're good guns, CZ75s. I'm actually pretty good with them. I like the CZs. They're good. I've never owned one, but they're reliable. Everything I know about them tells me they're good guns. Wooly says, I watched some streams videos about Israel versus Hamas. Public opinion is being prepped, emotional seeding. Oh, right, sorry, I get it. I'm going back to that topic. Show of hands or something. Who wants to talk about Israel? Wooly Ram, nominally leftist channels that are critical of Israel are hosting this preparatory propaganda. Yeah. Well, I've blogged about it as far as I'm concerned. The whole thing is a false flag to some extent or other. It's a Pearl Harbor. I don't know what they're going to ban. So, you know, I've pretty much talked about Israel and Hamas and all that on my blog. So go read that if you're interested in that sort of thing. I'm particularly not. There is one aspect of it which I think nobody has thought about, which I am going to blog about. I won't make a big long speech of it, but there is an aspect of the whole Israel thing that, aside from the obvious, aside from the taking away from Ukraine and all that, there's one aspect I haven't seen anybody else even mention as a possibility, which I will get into, and it's going to be quite interesting. But, yeah. So, getting back to the guns. I like the 1911 just because of the way it is. And I'm pretty sure that, you know, let's say, for whatever reason, I had a concealed carry permit in Italy, which, like I said, they're very rare. You need to have reasons or whatever. I can't see myself bothering to apply for one, but, you know, you never know. Let's just say they give me one. They're like, little present for you. Here you go. You can carry whatever gun you want. And let's say I did get the 1911 I like. Would I carry that as an everyday carry? Yes, I would. Is it because it's the best self-defense gun? No, I don't necessarily think so. But it is a gun. It is a gun I like. It is a gun that I think I'd shoot well with. It is a gun I'm prepared to put some time in to make sure I either pin down that like grip safety, or get rid of it, or learn to grip the gun in a way that works. And it's enough. It's plenty enough, because like I said, I'm hardly going to get charged by, I don't know, a bunch of Bedouins with like sticks and machetes trying to like suddenly kill me. And even if I am, the first shot that you fire is going to clear the whole crowd. Never mind 2, 3, 4, 5. So it would be plenty enough guns to for normal citizens. And also, people like, oh, if this happens, oh, if that happens. Oh. Sure. Can it happen that you're in France when they killed 160 something people in that like theater, and there were like Muslim guys going around with AKs? Sure, you can be real unlucky, that could happen to you. But what are the chances, statistically speaking, of that actually happening to you? Pretty close to fuck all. And okay, let's say you were carrying, let's say I was carrying, let's say I was in that theater with a 1911. Is that enough? Yeah, it's enough. Because among the 165 people, situationally, I try and make damn sure that I have at least got that gun out and like hidden before they really pointing at me. There's 165 people that can't keep their eyes on everybody all the time. So I'll have it in my hand, and yeah, he's got his AK and whatever. But the first guy, I'd be like the closest one to me that I'm sure I can't miss. And I'd just be like, boom, boom, give him 2. And that would like freak out the next guy. Even if he's like rapid fires his AK, he's going to be like, oh, trying to spray the crowd. Well, I'm not. I'm going to be doing the unforgiven old man thing, going, well, your buddy's dead. Now it's your turn. While he sprays and prays, and maybe he hits me, maybe he doesn't, but I'm just going to keep going. Boom, 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 until he's down. And then the next one. Boom, 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 until he's down. And then if I'm out of ammo and I don't have another mag, or I run, or it's too long to, I'll pick up one of the AKs. I know how to shoot an AK, and then you got real problems. Because if I've now got one of your AKs, I don't care if there's 2 or 3 of you. These guys are not brilliant shots. They're not like cold, calm, and collected. They're just evil fucks with a gun that like don't care about killing people. That's an advantage from them, but I know what I'm doing. If I get my hands on one of the AKs and there's like 2 or 3 of you, and they're not all in the same room at the same time, so they've got to come in from somewhere. There's going to be some bodies on their side. Maybe they'll get me, maybe they won't, but hell, I'm not going quietly. Even if I don't have a gun, I'm not going quietly. Fuck them. Caleb says, last question. No, you can have as many as you like. Thoughts on bullpups? Glad to see you doing better. God bless. Yeah, I'm still not doing great, but going up on the roof, my back's a bit out again. But yeah, I'm coughing a bit less, but I still have this thing. I need to find out what it is and get to the bottom of it properly, but just been busy. And my, I guess my doctor's been busy too, because she hasn't got back to me. Bullpups, remind me what you mean. You mean the ones with like the magazines sort of at the back? I hate those things. I can't stand the look of them. Wade Wilson says, I like how Vox calls it green flag. I don't believe 40 babies were cooked by desert cave trolls, but who knows? No, they weren't. Even the mainstream media has now admitted that was bullshit. It was total fucking nonsense. And yeah, I understand what he's saying, green flag. Like the Vox likes to create these neologisms so that he knows when they spread, like that it's got an effect. But you can call it a green flag, you can call it a false flag, you can call it what you like. Yeah, maybe green flag is a better term, because it's basically saying, hey, you guys go ahead. But like, there's no way that Israel didn't know this was coming. I mean, they got, and again, it's been confirmed, they did get warning from Egypt 3 days before, and Netanyahu lied about not having received that, because the Americans have confirmed, yeah, Egypt did tell you, and we did 3 times. So, even their greatest ally is basically saying, you're a bunch of fucking liars, so. Wade Wilson says, yeah, I'd be more concerned with my own government killing me than a Muslim. Me too. Yeah. Man, Hugo says Springfield 1911 prodigy. Never shot a handgun with less kick. Expensive but worth it. Yeah, the Springfield 1911 is also a pretty gun, but I'm a purist. If you go and read my blog post about the Colt 1911, you'll see. I don't know why I'm like that. I have a tendency to be a purist for the original, including things like the word skeptic in writing and in everything. My desk is like an old style that you see the typewriters at the back there. That typewriter is from I can't remember if it's very early 1900s or late 1800s. That one there is the British one. And then I've got an Olivetti here. There you go. The Olivetti is this red one. And I had more, but when I moved, I gave some more. You see the cameras there? That one there is, that camera there is like a little, one of those old cameras where you have to put the plate in, and there's another one there. And off to the side, in this thing in here, I've got an old 8mm hand cranked video camera. And a whole bunch of, I've got an old portable vinyl record player, and what else? I've got an old compass. I've got like little old statuettes, and I've got an old exploded bullet. This is interesting. I'm gonna show you this one. So this was given to me when I was in London by the guys I used to work with, and you see, it's a bullet that's been opened up, and there's the powder in the middle, there's the bullet tip, and some little fragments of it. So the copper jacketing on the bullet tip is what those little fragments here are. The powder still burns. I've just poured a bunch of glue on it so it doesn't go anywhere. But that, ladies and gentlemen, was a smokeless powder, one of the first smokeless powder. Oh, sorry, and this is the other thing. This is Light and Heat, which is in Portuguese, written by a 15th century priest, Catholic priest that I found in Brazil. And it's brilliant. My Portuguese is not that good to read that and understand it fully, but it's a brilliant book. So anyway, that ammo was found in a park, what is today a park, but used to be a Rothschild's garden. It used to be the garden of a Rothschild residence in the whatever 1800 early 1900s, and that was the first smokeless powder of the German army, which was illegal to export to anywhere else. A whole bunch of them were found in the Rothschilds, where we know for a fact historically that they had some kind of military training camp there just before World War I. Why did they have German ammunition there? And if you know anything about the Rothschild history and World War I, yeah. So I consider that evidence. So yeah. And I just like old stuff. I like the old way of doing things in many respects is, I think, better. See the photographs up here? That's my grandfather and my grandmother. They're all black and white pictures. People had to pose for them a little bit, and I don't know, I like the fact that it took a bit of time. Believe it or not, I actually like watercolor painting, which I have never had a lot of time to learn how to do properly, but I'm not half bad. And I like the time it takes, the relaxation, that you can just take your time. To paint, you have to take time. It's the same like when I lived in Venice. I like the fact that you couldn't rush anywhere. You have to walk there or use a boat. And it just forces you to work at human speed. And I like that aspect of life, slowing down, doing things with care, taking your time, doing it properly. Again, just behind me, you can see that's the 13-part Oxford English Dictionary, which my wife got me for my 50th birthday. It was a very, very nice present. The old stuff is there for a reason. It worked for a reason. It did. And most cases, the old way, I think, in many cases, is better, as in it gives a better experience of whatever it is that you're doing, and it gives a better. Again, if you read my post on the Colt 1911 and I talk about the Colt Navy 1851, which is a black powder weapon, there is something dignified about, like, you draw your pistol 10 paces, you click, you have to cock it, and boom, you fire, and then you cock for the next shot. Yes, you're still killing people, whatever, but it's a more honorable way of going about it than just, spraying and praying with a plastic Glock and your pants around your ankles because you're a, cool dude. You're some kind of, fuck that. Yeah. It's just, what I prefer. That's it. The bullpups change the ballistics of the rifle. Not as far as I'm aware. Basically, all the bullpup does is it shortens the rifle because you've got the magazine at the back. The barrel can be inside the housing, let's say, of the thing. So, in a normal rifle, you've got your stock, then you've got your ammo, then you've got your barrel. In a bullpup, you've got your ammo, your stock, and your barrel starts back here. So it just makes it a shorter configuration, but I hate the way they look. I don't like them. Sam Wereb, hello. And Tides of Truth, hello, good stream. Oh, Tides of Truth, yes. Been a long time. 21 people. Okay, you guys like guns. So, well, then screw guns. Let's get back to swords and spears. Well, now that you mention it, I had the Olympic team, the coach of the British Olympic team trained me to use the épée. And I was a natural with the épée. On the only international competition I went, because then after that I was in Africa, and the only fencing they know there is to keep cattle in. They know nothing about swords, but I was a natural with the thing. The captain of the British team, he thought they were setting him up, so they gave me a saber, which I'd never played with at all, and they gave him a saber, and he said, well, I'm going to put like my, thick padding, because obviously this guy is just a novice, and he's going to like try and break the blade on me. And I was like, dude, I've never even held one. He said, yeah. And then he came at me like full force. They were like trying to like hit me with like, He just thought it was being set up with like some semi-Olympic guy to make him look foolish. And he tried his level best to land something on me, and he didn't. But I was like so shocked by his attack. I was like, I just blocked everything. He didn't land a single blow. But I never bothered to reply because I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? He's like in a real sword fight, dude. It's it's fake swords. What the hell? And he wouldn't believe it afterwards. He wouldn't believe that I'd never picked one up. And they told him, no, we're not taking the piss. Really, the guy's never held one. He's just started and he's never held a saber. He couldn't land one on me. And then with the épée, which was my favorite weapon, I went to the only international competition I went, and I was talking to this guy who was going to the Olympics. That's why he was there. He finished second in this international competition for fencing that was held in the UK. And it was a qualifier for the Olympics, and he came second. And we were the first on the piste. We just started talking. He was like, yeah, I'm going to go to the Olympics. And I'm like, oh, shit, I just started. It's my first competition. And then they called Filotto di Tella. And I was like, oh, that's me. I have to go. And he goes, yeah, I'm the Tella. I was like, fuck, never mind. This guy's just going to drill me. But I thought, fuck it. I'm just going to treat this as a real fight. So I went in, and like I just leaped at him. I did a passata sotto, and like I stabbed him like in the chest. And he was like, huh! And then he just looked at me like, okay, he was like, fuck it, now I'm awake. And after that, he got me 5 times on the wrist, and I didn't touch him again. But had that been a real fight, he'd be dead and I'd be alive. And again, that's just instinct. It's just natural. And then, after he like started to like be technical about it, I tried to be technical, and that's where I screwed up, because the instinctual thing is what I need to go with. I shot a replica Colt Walker years ago. I've actually got a Colt Dragoon, 3rd model, but it's in South Africa, and I never got a chance to shoot it before I left. And that irks me. So, yeah. So, to get back to you, Sam, no, who was it? Who was it that said, let's go back to swords and... Oh, did somebody cancel the... Oh, yeah, no, Man Hugo. Yeah, look, I would be fine with going back to swords. I'd go with my épée, my rapier, and my dagger. And I'd do a rapier and dagger. That's how I'd fight. And yes, I would kick your ass. In fact, one thing that really bothers me is that it's actually Catholic law, dogma, that you cannot duel. It irks me no end because that would be so much easier to resolve all disputes. Just like, pick your weapons, bitch. I'll see you at noon tomorrow because I'm not an early riser. And I don't care what you pick. You can pick a pistol. You can pick the rapier. I'm good with either one. So, oh, I would just get through life so much easier. All the paperwork would just disappear. Yeah. And Wade Wilson says, I agree. I find the convenience of new tech to be inconvenient sometimes. Often, I find drawing on paper still beats using a tablet, even if the tablet has a lot of benefits. Yeah, I agree. Which is why I don't think AI will completely replace human beings for a long time, at least anyways. I just don't see it happening. Sam Webb says 6 chambers with 45 caliber balls and black powder. After firing, I had to step 6 feet to the side to see well enough for the next shot. Yeah, it makes a huge cloud. Yeah, 44 caliber. Sorry, yeah, it is a 44. Yeah, I like the old stuff. It does work better. Like even in everything, even like boats. I like sailing. I don't like those big motorboat things. The beauty of sailing is, I think, important. Sorry, but I've had a very scant dinner, so I'm gonna be chewing a bit on some cheese. And so yeah, the 1851. Why? Again, because it fits in my hand really well. The weight is perfectly balanced. And it's getting to the point where the inconvenience of black powder would put me off a bit. But you can get the converted 1851 Navy in 38 Special now, the Uberti model, and I'm definitely eye that one out. But again, it's an expense I can't. Man, you just says AI equals an Indian. Very good. And that's why I'm not afraid of AI. Yeah. Very good. But yeah, it's I don't know. Another thing I've never shot, I've never owned, but again, I've like 30 grand just landed on my head tomorrow. I'd definitely buy all these weapons. I'd buy the 1851 Navy in 38 Special because I'm getting a bit lazier in my old age. I don't want to sit there cleaning out the black powder all the time. A converted 1851 Navy in 38 Special, I would get that, the Bertie one. And then I'd get a Winchester rifle, the lever action rifle. Ideally in 44 Magnum, but I'm struggling to find one that looks like the one I want, sort of thing. But yeah, I'd get one. And hopefully after that, the apocalypse happened, that it's not so bad that, it's just bad enough that you can walk around armed and nobody's going to say shit because they might get shot if they do. And, but it's, I'd probably do really well in that sort of environment. I know there'd be gangs and people would team up and shit, but hey, I got friends, our guys would team up too. And you'd soon learn that's like, oh, okay, you don't go bother people in that area over there. That area over there, you kind of got to stay away from it if you're a bad guy, Yeah. And you could just walk around with your Winchester and your 6 guns. And even then, it would be fine. Say, oh, but there'll be people with Glocks shooting at you. Yeah, but think about it. Say it's an apocalypse, right? And say that you're like, I'm with my Winchester and my 1851 converted to 38 Special. Not great weapons for long-range shooting. Not ideal. Not what I necessarily want in an apocalyptic type scenario at all. But let's say that's what I got. And let's say that the opposition is like a bunch of young thugs with like Glocks. The Winchester gives me an edge distance-wise. And if I'm behind a bit of cover, They can spray and pray at like 50 meters, 100 meters, whatever, with their Glock. At 100 meters, with like open sights, with my Winchester 44 caliber, yeah, I'm happy to stand behind an engine block, just poke my head out and toom, toom, toom. And unless you're lucky, you ain't gonna hit me. And unless you're lucky, I'm probably gonna hit you, you know, even if you're running. Yeah, it might not hit you perfect, but hey, anywhere a 44 Magnum hits you, it's just gonna spoil your whole day. Even if it's just in the leg or in an arm, it's gonna really, you know, make you think twice about coming at me with your Glock. So, and in a close distance scenario, does it matter? You know, unless he's already got his gun out and he's already shooting at me. If we're both like, you know, high noon, okay, draw, bam. My first shot is what I'm counting on. I'm not counting on like just closing my eyes and pulling the trigger as many times as possible to try and fill the area. I would do that if I'm fighting. I would more likely to do that if I'm fighting a guy that knows his stem, or one of those like freaks of nature that like dodges bullets, and then yeah. But even then, it's not really about looking. Then I would actually close my eyes then to try and feel where he is, and then if you get good at that, one shot's enough. But you know, if we're not too good at that, if I had a semi-auto like with a lot of capacity and some, say Vladimir Vasiliev was trying to take me out and he starts out 5 meters away and I just managed to get my like 17 shot Sig Sauer, 20 shot Sig Sauer, because I fucking hate Glocks. Yeah, then with him I would just probably just close my eyes, because the eyes would deceive me, and not because I'm scared. I would close my eyes because if I'm trying to look at him, I would definitely shoot in the wrong position. Well, if I'm just trying to feel him, I'm more likely to hit where he's actually going to be, because then I'm relying on other senses to like kind of determine that, and that works better for me. So then, yeah, then I would be like, just try and fill a cloud here and a cloud there. But if I didn't have the option, if I only had the like, you know, single action Colt Navy, I'd be like, oh shit, let me just not even look at him as I try and fan the thing, shoot twice if I get a chance, you know. Hi Wooly, are you well away from the Gaza bullshit? Well, the pro says use your pistol to fight your way to your rifle, and use your rifle to fight your way to your friends. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like use your pistol to fight your way to your shotgun to fight your way to your rifle, and your rifle to fight your way to like artillery. That's more like it. But yeah. Yeah, of course, you know, a handgun compared to a rifle. I mean, my brother was in a situation where they had long guns. There was 2 of them. They were protecting a high-value target that had a lot of enemies. And they got 2 carloads with 15 people with balaclavas and handguns just come to this compound, and like they just started coming out of the cars. Like 15 guys with like all armed with handguns and balaclavas on. So they're intending to like fucking do some harm. And it's just him and his buddy, but they both have long arms. And they just stood behind the engine block and they said, we're going to start shooting. If you don't drop right now, we're going to start dropping you. Moral of the story, they arrested 15 guys. They took all their guns off them. They ran out of zip ties. They didn't have enough zip ties to like do them all. Because, you know, you carry 2 or 3. You don't expect like 15 guys armed. They took all their guns. They told them, okay, now you've got 30 seconds to get in your cars and fuck off. We're going to fill you full of lead. They kept their leader there, tied him up, kept him there. So we're going to count to 30, then we're going to start shooting. So get in your cars and fuck off. Because they couldn't hold all of them. There's only 2 of them. It's like, you know, it's going to be, something's going to go wrong. So they ran off, having given up all their guns. And then they had this guy, they had this guy tied up with the zip ties. And then they had to defend him from the supporters of the VIP they were protecting, because they wanted to kill him. They were going to just drag him out and stone him. They're like, he's our prisoner. Stay back, stay back. So, yeah, 2 guys with long rifles, with long guns, beat the shit out of like a bunch of guys with short ones. Absolutely, yes. Real life scenario. It really happened. So, so for the late joiners, okay, you guys are starting to drop off maybe, I don't know. Any more gun questions? Free for all on the gun questions. As far as Israel and all that is going on. Willie, I hope you're safe. But yeah, pretty much everything I'm going to say is on the blog. If you're interested in that, g.filotto.com, go there and just scroll back, because over the last few days I've posted quite a few things on it, I think. Hi Sam, I'm in Jerusalem, not much going on here. I'm well and thanks for asking. Yeah, I actually pinged an email to a guy I used to work with that, actually let me see if he's replied, that I used to work with in this close protection stuff, and I just wanted to see, you know, hopefully he's doing all right. But yeah, he's not replied. And I forget where he is, but he may well be, he may well be pretty close to that stuff, if I remember right. He's either in or near one of the settlements, so it could well be that he's pretty close to whatever happened. And he's, you know, he's got seven kids. I got 5. He doesn't have a lot of weapons out there. Like Israel is actually pretty controlled with that sort of stuff. I think it's even worse than Europe. I think he's got a handgun or something, but that's about it. Which, you know, there, for example, doesn't matter if you got a Glock. If you're the guy with a Glock and there's like 4 or 5 or 10 guys with like AKs and AR-15s, and you know, you're in shit. It's better than nothing. But I had the SP-101 version of your favorite Ruger GP100. God, I love that gun. Is the SP the stainless steel one? Yeah, I had a 4-inch blued. I still have it. It's in South Africa, but it's not here. I like the Ruger. It's a nice, reliable, accurate gun. Although my last shooting with it I wasn't too impressed. But I did have to sight it in and stuff, and I didn't have the exact correct tools for the you know, for clicking the sights. And also I just need to, you know, I need to spend a lot more time at the range to like get back to where I was, if it's even possible, because you know, maybe sometimes at old age, like I have to wear these now for like up close. Don't need them for far away, but you know, it does have a little bit of an effect on your aiming point. You know, it doesn't matter with a rifle through a scope. These things make no difference. But with a handgun, when you're trying to aim and looking at the sights and that, they're not as sharply in focus as the target or whatever. So that all has an effect. And you know, we all end up in a hole in the ground at some point anyway. So that's just how it goes. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm curious now. The SP-101, is that the silver one? Yeah, here's an interesting question. Would I carry, you know, again, apocalypse scenario, right? You can carry whatever the hell you want, and anybody upsets you, you can sort it out by drawing and firing. Would I rather carry a 6-inch 357 Magnum Ruger, or any semi-auto, or a single action of some kind revolver? I think it would depend a lot on how accurate I was with the single action, because even a 6-inch Ruger, my first shot would always be single action, and you know, after that, double action on a Ruger, it's a long pull. It goes, you know, off. You're to be accurate with a Ruger. The first shot would always have been single action. The second shot would be double action, only if I'm like really close. And you know, if I even think I have the chance of like cocking again, I would cock it again. So it would pretty much be the same as shooting a single action of some kind. SP-101, a stainless steel frame with a 2-inch barrel, 357 5-shot. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a very good carry weapon. And again, you know, like operator like the idiot I'm gonna Kurgan when this is done. Oh, you only got a 5-shot. Oh, it's you don't have a spare magazine with 32 ammunition. Who gives a shit? What are you doing? Are you part of a SWAT team that's going in to take out a bunch of armed terrorists? No. You're just a civilian going about your day. What's the worst that can happen is like there is a shootout near you. Some guy tries to mug you. I know of someone, I'm not going to mention who, let's just say it's one of those hypothetical stories that could have happened. I think you guys know me well enough to know what that means, but so this young gentleman was walking home late one night in the good old United States of America, and he encountered someone who clearly wasn't a gentleman, I believe of African American persuasion, who got in his way, stopped him from proceeding along his passage. Now this gentleman did not have a gun on him. What he did have was a Gerber Mark II knife. If you don't know what that is, it's a 6-inch blade with it's all one-piece steel. The handle is similar to like a World War II type dagger. It's basically a dagger. It's double-edged with like serrated bits for the first 2 or 3 inches, and then another 3 inches of like double-edged spear type knife. It's a lovely knife. They've basically stopped making them, and the newer ones they make are thinner, stupider, and uglier. I've got one of the good ones, again, unfortunately in South Africa, but Anyway, he had this Mark II Gerber knife. He was carrying it behind him, kind of like military carry Gerber knife. And this other guy was in his way and like opened his jacket a bit to show he's got a gun. And he's like, hey, just talking and giving a bit of attitude. And the guy with the knife, the gentleman that was minding his own business, walking home, realized, shit, this guy's going to shoot me. He's actually going to go for it. He's just like setting me up, and then he's going to go for it. And I was just like talking, just fast talking, and I needed to get close to him because I got a knife, and then he started to go for his gun, and I went for my knife, pulled the knife out, and just, and man, did this guy's throat just fly open. Just, and he dropped down, and I ran away. That's the story, this hypothetical story of this guy who just did that. And he got rid of the knife and read the newspapers, and nothing came on it because, United States, in one of those cities where they probably pick up a body every couple of days. And the guy whose body they picked up was probably some kind of gangbanger. So the investigation proceeds very slowly, and that was it. You know what? They say don't bring a knife to a gunfight. Well, that guy had a knife and he brought it to a gunfight and he won. So if you actually know what you're doing, it really doesn't matter. A GP 100 2-inch with 5 shots is plenty enough gun for just about anything that can happen to you in a normal, nasty civilian situation. Because what are you going to do? Are you going to get attacked by 15 guys who are just going to keep on coming? It's not fucking Somalia, right? If you're living in the Western Hemisphere, even in a big city, even in a, I'm not saying if you are a gangbanger in a gangbanger gang that's got a beef with another gangbanger gang, well then, yeah, the 5-shot 357 is probably a bit less gun that you want to have. But I'm assuming Sam here is not a gangbanger in Chicago doing drug deals all the time. I'm just assuming. I don't know. So yeah, it's plenty enough gun. Tides of Truth says, good to hear Kurgan again. Love the stories. Well, Tides of Truth, one of these days, maybe, if you behave, we can have that talk you wanted to have some years ago when you flaked out. Sam Werb says, when I carried that, I sold cable TV door to door to basketball Americans. Well, there you go. See, even then, it was plenty enough gun, and you were, you were trying to sell. I'm correct me if I'm wrong, I guess it's ESPN to basketball enthusiasts. And, you know, guys who play those sports can be quite emotional. You know, they get passionate about their sport. Maybe they get upset about their team not having scored well, or you just, you know, offering them ESPN and they've got some other cable TV that they prefer and they just don't like you guys, you know, whatever. But again, you're not likely to get like assaulted by a whole basketball team, right? Maybe one or two guys on the team that happen to be in the house that you go to that just really have a beef with ESPN or whatever you're selling. It's plenty enough. Because again, you're not just going to go like, go, go, and then like, I'm going to stand and deliver now over this body while the rest of you team up. Come on, come at me. It's not what you're going to do. You have to shoot somebody, you get the hell out of there, unless the area's safe, you're secure, it's safer to stay there than not to run somewhere else. And you call the cops, and you call the ambulance, and you tell the cops, by the way, I'm the guy that was attacked, I'm armed, don't shoot me dead as soon as you see me. And if you can, if it's safe, put your gun away. Because when the cops come, you just want to be the guy that's standing there with his hands up saying, hey, body's over there, gun's over there, you know. You don't want to be like swinging a gun around going, who else? Who's next? That's not going to go well for you, especially if they're American cops. You're likely to become Swiss cheese, which is not as tasty as this Asiago. So, and by the way, if you go to the blog and you look at the post on the quote, well, sorry, I haven't finished the post where I'm dissecting this cretin who left a stupid comment, 2 stupid comments. But when I do post it and you go to the link of the hard data, you'll see that guess what is the best pistol round to stop people in one-shot stop and has, you know, a decent, you usually don't have to shoot the guy more than 1.5 times statistically. 357 Magnum. And there's some older data that backs that up as well. The older data, which this guy doesn't refer to, by the way, matches the new data pretty much 1 for 1. One caliber they don't have in the new data is the 41 Magnum, which they did have in the old data. And the 41 Magnum is the only caliber that's actually better than the 357 Magnum to create one-shot stops. A one-shot stop is the idea that like one bullet is enough to like put the guy out of commission. You know, your percentage of one-stop shots with shotguns are like 80%, with rifles like 79 or something. With handguns, it drops down to like 50, you know, I think 60, something like that. But guess what? There's less than 10% difference between a 45 ACP and a 2.2. In fact, the 2.2 and the 45 ACP compare quite favorably with each other. You usually need about 2 shots with the 45 ACP and maybe 2 or 3 shots with the 2.2. They have the same sort of incidence of one-shot stops pretty much. In fact, the 2.2 I think is better. So, guess what that means? Where you shoot the guy matters a hell of a lot more than what you shoot him with. Because a 2.2 right in your eyeball here, it's definitely better than a 45 in the shoulder, you know, if you're the good guy. If you're the guy getting shot, definitely worse to get hit by a 2.2 in the eyeball than a 45 in the shoulder. Oh, 9mm sucks. 9mm doesn't stack up for one-shot stops. It's shit, and it's partly why I don't like 9mm. But you have to understand the statistic. It's not just that the 9mm bullet is shit, because you know, 32 ACPs, which is smaller than a 9mm, has better one-shot stops than the 9mm. Why does it take more than 1 shot with the 9mm? Because, mostly speaking, 9mm have got a shitload of ammo. So what does the guy do when he has to shoot somebody with a 9mm? He's just like, and guess what has on the new data? What has the best sort of like, you know, least number of shots? So they've got like one-shot stops, and then they've got how many shots does it take to actually stop the guy if it's not a one-shot stop. The 44 Magnum, the 357, they're pretty much like one-shot stops. Because if you got a 44 Magnum or a 357 Magnum, the chances are you're actually using a revolver that only has 6 shots. And if you're going to shoot a guy with a revolver, you're not just going to go like, you're actually going to go click, boom, click, boom. And you're going to drop a guy with each shot. So there's something to be said for not having a lot of shots. Because you have a lot of shots and you spray a lot of shit. You know, it's like that old saying like, oh, men can't multitask. And as I have always said, yes, it's true. Women can do 5 things at a time. And that means they can fuck up 5 things at a time. Most of the time, you know. So, yeah. In a gunfight situation, you don't want to be spraying and praying. If you can at all help it, you want to be cold, calm, collected, aim. If you're the kind of guy that aim, and when I say aim, I mean whatever that means to you, right? My aim is not like, I'm going to put the sights on this guy, close one eye. My aim in instinctive shooting is like, boom. And it works for me. That's what you want to do if you're in a gunfight situation, in some kind of situation where it's life and death. You don't want to be like pissing about with like, well, I'm going to like, you know, just shoot in the general area. And look, a good gunfight is one you walk away from, right? So maybe you do have to spray and pray. Maybe that's your way. Maybe that you panic and that's what you do. Maybe that's what you have to do because there's a lot of them and you're just like, fuck it. And you get lucky. Maybe you're hiding around the corner and you got enough ammo to just like, shoot some lead down the corridor. Hopefully, where you're not like shooting at all the neighbors and all the walking bystanders that are innocent. But, you know, it's like, maybe you need to do that. Maybe that is what you need to do in that moment and that works for you. But generally speaking, a gunfight, by the way, do you know what the distance of a gunfight statistically is? Do you know what the distance is? You ready? 6 feet. It's less than 2 meters. So a gunfight pretty much happens at the same distance that I can like take a step and punch you in the face. And quite often, you know, if that's another thing I practice. I practiced that a lot which was like throwing fire. Because what happens, you know, you're trained to like, block and fire. But like a lot of people will like block and fire and shoot themselves through the hand. So I had muscle memory to like just block and fire, and it would be like block depending if, you know, if the guy's still drawing or whatever, it's like high block, shoot him in the belly ball area, because a 3.57 Magnum going through your pelvis, yeah, that's definitely gonna irritate you enough that you're gonna pretty much stop whatever the hell you're doing, even if it's not lethal right away. Or if he's already got the gun, then it's like pin the gun to his own body and then shoot him over or under, depending, right? So if it's here, it's under. If it's here, it's over. And yes, I would probably be traversing my own hand. But again, I'm not the kind of guy that like has accidental misfires in a stressful situation. I know exactly when I'm pulling the trigger and I know exactly when I'm pointing it. And I've had stressful situations where whatever. So, Willie Ram says, one more point for older tech. Yep. Heck, even with computers, hardwired internet is better on all levels compared to wireless. Yeah. You know, it's just basic reality. You know, people don't want to accept basic reality. They've moved away in all sorts of ways from basic reality. You know, they're trying to tell you that like sex is now called gender. It's not. It's called sex. There's male and there's female, and there's some people that are unfortunate that are hermaphrodites. But it's a biological sex. That's it. You know, no. Gender is a word that's used for romantic languages to distinguish between the masculine of a word and the feminine of a word. Not people, not animals. So, for example, la tavola, the table, is a feminine word in Italian. Il tavolo is a masculine word. So that particular word, the gender of that particular word can be both. And that is an object that can be mentioned in the feminine and in the masculine. And that applies only to language words in a language like Italian or French or Spanish or Portuguese. Like, for example, in Portuguese, you would say obrigado to say thank you. But if you're a woman, you'd say obrigada because you're a woman. Or you say il gatto, the cat, is masculine. La barba, the beard, is feminine. There's no real rhyme or reason to it, but that's how it is. It's got nothing to do with human sexuality. Absolutely nothing. It's linguistics, and that's what it's about. So, But if you're being trained to not think, in other words, this kind of nonsense, well, then you don't understand reality. If you don't understand reality, you don't understand why things were done a certain way for a long time. Makes me, Wooly Ram says, makes me wonder if our current non-analog technology was chosen for a nefarious reason. Yeah, it's kind of demonic. It's the next step, right? So the Industrial Revolution, which the British people, the Anglo-Saxons, having become Protestants, started, and everybody tells us, yeah, the Industrial Revolution, the British were so good. Were they? Because they mechanized human beings. And along with the Industrial Revolution, if you remember, there was also child labor. And there were child miners, and there were child manufacturing guys that were like little kids. They were like in factories working 15 hours a day because they were poor and they had to eat. And so that was the only way they could get food. Before that, yes, it was the feudal system. Yes, it was the agricultural system. Yes, it was the farming system, which, make no mistake, was fucking hard. Absolutely hard. But things moved in a natural cycle. There was a natural order to things. The timing was different. While as soon as you get a mechanized process that has to use humans in it, guess what? The humans become part of the machine instead of the other way around. And so the humans become dehumanized. And that was the Industrial Revolution, which mechanized human beings. And then it spread throughout the world. And then it got systemized, and now it's getting digitized. And now everything is shallow, no depth, no time. Everything is done super quick and usually full of errors. And I can tell you this from the building industry, right? I worked in the construction industry for decades. In the old days, when draftsmen used to draw a drawing of a house or a building or whatever, they took care with drawing that thing, trying to make sure it worked, because if it fucked up, they had to do that drawing again. And it was hours of time would be wasted doing a drawing by hand. And that was money. So they made sure that things worked when they drew it by hand. When they draw it in CAD, it's like you've got a 20-year-old guy who's just straight out of university, who's good with computers, like, yeah, click, 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 click. And guess what you end up with? A hotel in Park Lane, London, one of the signature hotels of London, I'm not going to say which name, that had the plant rooms on the top where they usually are, and the plant rooms were like 4 meters by 2, and the plant that had to go inside that 4 meter by 2 room was 3 meters by 6. Because some fucking kid on CAD is like, hey, I'm just going to draw the room here, it looks cool, yeah, I've done it. And that didn't happen in one building site. The supporting columns, the structural columns of the Shard in London, iconic building, they're out of position by over a foot. Chinese designer with like some other people involved. Yeah. All done on computers. Is it better? It's faster. Is faster better? There's a saying in Italian, which I think is pertinent to this point, which if you translate it literally, it's va piano che ho fretta. Go slowly, because I'm in a hurry. Which means don't fuck it up. Do it properly, because I'm in a hurry. I don't have time for you to fuck it up 2 or 3 times because you're trying to go quick. Take your time, do it carefully, do it properly. And it's absolutely true. It's very, very true. The so-called convenience of the speed, what else does it mean? It means that we get mechanized more. We get from, Industrial Revolution mechanized us. Now Software Revolution digitizes us. We become even more mechanized because you have less time. You can now produce 10 drawings in a day instead of 1. So you have to produce 10 drawings in a day instead of 1 with 50 mistakes on them. But you send them across and it doesn't matter because you can correct the mistake quickly the next day. And then the next day you've got another 10 drawings to do plus the 50 mistakes. Some of them have come back, so you've got to fix that. So you've got to do that. And it's and then you die of a heart attack at 45. And they blame cholesterol. And the pills that you were taking for the cholesterol fucking hardened your arteries and you're dead. Because that's how it goes. That's the beauty of the new technology. If instead I have to draw by hand my building and I have to think about exactly how each part fits with the next part, it might take me a week to do one drawing. But that fucking drawing will work, most likely. And if it doesn't work precisely, it'll be because of some aspect of the building that wasn't possibly considered to begin with. Like maybe you don't know that there was some sewer line going through there, or they didn't tell you about it, or they told you it was in the wrong place. And then the design becomes very engineered. And the thing is, if you look at old structures, like old things, Roman concrete is better than modern concrete by far. It's self-healing. Literally, it's self-healing concrete. The aqueducts that carry water in Rome that were built by the Romans, some of them are still there doing their job. Yeah? Try and do that with fucking modern concrete. It's not going to last 100 years. The machines that were used, I saw a guy who used to have, I actually bought one, but it wasn't working, a balance scale that's inside a glass container so that wind doesn't affect it. And you could measure the weight of the ink on a business card. So you sign a business card and you wait before it was signed and you wait after it was signed, and it would give you the weight of the ink on that business card. It would take you about an hour to do it, but the precision of that analog instrument was astonishing. And the guy also had like a brass theodolite with like a tiny slit in it that had a human hair. You had to put a human hair in it to make like the crosshair, and it had the expansion on the because it had a silver dial, let's say, with the degrees, and the thing was made of bronze, so it had the expansion coefficient that you have to like take into account depending on the temperature, because it'll expand the ring or the bronze a certain amount, and then you have to like figure out just how much that means in terms of degrees. So you'd have to do a hand calculation. You know what? With that theodolite, with that bronze theodolite, you could do everything that they do with the like geostation now, and probably be more accurate, because the geostation thing is like using GPS, which is not perfectly accurate. And then you've got the laser ones, which are supposedly very accurate and whatever. But your battery runs out, and now you're fucked. With that bronze thing, sure, it takes longer, but it's just as accurate. You can get just as accurate with it. In fact, some of the old style, watches and like little mechanisms, even in guns, were like so precise, and so much care was taken with the tools they had back then. Imagine if we took that approach to things and did it by hand and took our time. Imagine the quality that you could have. Now, I'll probably never, unless I win the lotto, I'll probably never have the time to become good at using the little metal mill that I bought. But if I had the time and somebody to teach me, because you need an experienced guy to like show me. Man, I would love to like build my own little whatever, build my own little gadgets out of like things that I've turned on the lathe. Sorry, metal lathe, not mill. Metal lathe that I've got, a little mini metal lathe. I would love to do that shit. That would be awesome. But people don't have the patience, don't have the time, and if you were to survive doing that, you'd have to sell those things for like, thousands, because how else could you live, And I'm sure that somebody that has that skill could do it. I'm sure they could make a living at it. Italy, a lot of the craftsmen in Italy make a living that way, precisely because they do things to a level of quality that the rest of the world has forgotten by now. And why? Because even though most people are no longer, the Catholic dogma helped to keep the human thing alive. The mechanization of the modern stuff is mechanizing, it's self-defeating, it's demonic, it's like digitizing human beings, atomizing them into like component parts, like if they're a little cog in a wheel. The Catholic ideology of things is all human-based. It's all individual-based. It's all person-based. So, yeah. Sam is being called away for work. Good night, sir, and thank you for the little contribution. Willie Ram, case in point, can't even be away from work. Damn cell phones. Yeah, there you go. I read a short story ages ago about teleportation booths, and I can't remember who wrote it. It was a short story, but it was like the whole point of this, and it was actually more than one short story by the same author, where in the future they had like teleportation booths, and like you can't get away from people, because people just teleport to your house and just like, hey, there's a booth near you. Yeah, I'm just coming to check you out. Nobody phones each other anymore, because it's just like get in the booth and like boop. And it's like fucking, and you'd get these murders. You'd get these like random murders that like cops would have to investigate, because like, well, there's no pattern here. There's just a dead guy, but it's like, yeah, because you can't get away from people. So like people eventually lost their fucking mind and started murdering each other because they just want to get away from people and they can't because people just keep appearing there. You know, this was obviously a slightly misanthropic guy who hated picking up the phone or answering his doorbell. And I understand him. You know, the cool thing about phones, you can still switch them off. Teleportation booths that are just spread throughout the world. Imagine the horror that would be. Yeah. Tides of Truth, great points. I've also noticed the documentation is now crap or non-existent. Yeah, documentation is all like, you know, when I was in my 20s, I was building computers. They were like component parts from China, and they had a very Chinese English, but it's like, you know, to put the SAR card in the board, then take the mother out, put the other component in. What the fuck? What does that even mean? CPU is heat resistant. Put the heat resistant on top of CPU. Huh? You've got some fan, okay? You know, you have to kind of decipher this shit. And yeah, documentation now absolutely sucks because it's written by a guy that's got fuck all to do with the guy who built it, who's just like, oh, well, it has to be like ISO 901, like it has to comply with that. Oh, okay. So I have to have a section on health and safety. I have to have a section on what color it is and whether the paint is toxic. All right. What about the functionality of the thing? Well, it doesn't mention it. Fuck it. I don't know. It's a tool. You know, so how do I use it? Yeah, it is all like that. Wade Wilson says the food industry has really become a poison industry just because of the obsession with producing more and more. It's all about do more, cheaper and faster. Yep. And put whatever crap in it keeps it technically alive longer. Man, Hugo says, suddenly I'm in the mood to watch The Last Samurai. Yeah, don't like Tom Cruise though. Wooly Ram says, my mother had some Japanese kitchen knives, hand beveled, amazing tools for the kitchen. Yep. And wanting some peace and solitude isn't misanthropy, it's a natural instinct. Yes, for men who are still men. I'm not sure that women have that instinct of peace and quiet by themselves. Maybe. I know my wife does, but that's just to get away from the kids. And probably me. But yeah, I definitely have no problem enjoying my own company. In fact, my wife has had a bit of a go at me about it. Because, well, you know, you're okay. You can just be by yourself all the time. You don't give a shit. And it's like, it's not that. I got used to it because of necessity. I had to learn to, like, I was on my own a lot, you know, as a kid. And that's just how it is. It's not like, there we go. Let's move that Kurgan thing a bit. Yeah. But, well, I'm not really going to get into the whole Israel thing. Let me know if you've got any more gun things. I'm happy to carry on talking about guns for a couple more hours if that's what you want. If you want to help me, you know, do the necessary thing, it's like a necessity of life, and you want to help me get the Colt 1911, please contribute to the fund. I've put it in the description as well. I think I've got like some total of $60 now, which, you know, after Google takes their cut, it's going to be like... thank you, Fella and Cordell. Yeah, $60. It's probably going to be like, what, $40 or whatever that like Google gives me. That's like almost 1/20th or 1/40th, depending on which one I'm going to try and go for of the gun. And it's going to stay for the gun fund, I promise you. It's not going to go anywhere else. You know, a man needs a Colt 1911. Please give generously. So yeah, hey, if you can afford it and you got the money to spare, I would really appreciate it. And I will definitely, dude, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down your names. Anybody that contributes to the gun fund, if I actually get to the point where I can have enough to buy one, I'm going to do a stream just for you guys with your names. I'm going to figure out how to have your names scrolling on the stream because it's worth it. Yeah, you know, I'm going to write you, well, at least the names that you've got up here down. So anyway, if there are no more questions or any conversations you guys want to have about guns or anything else really at this point, are military rifles rounds usable for hunting? Yeah, sure. doesn't matter what the round is. If you hit thing right, it'll kill it. I mean, military round is the 7.62 or 308, also known as 30.06, also known as 300 Winchester Magnum. So you got a little bit of a change in the shape of the casing of the bullet, and you got a change in the amount of powder in it. But basically, it's all the same round, the same diameter, caliber. And the 300 Winchester Magnum is a military round. The 308 is a military round. The 5.56 is a military round. Now the 5.56, it's a shitty round for hunting because it's designed to wound. And you know, if you shoot a Coke can with a 5.56, my dad's got a Mini 14. We tried this stuff on. You shoot a Coke can at like 50 meters. On the entry point, you already see some speckles, and on the exit point, it's just like a, you know, it's designed to like burst on impact almost. So it wounds an animal. I wouldn't use a 5.56 to hunt anything bigger than, I don't know, a small buck, like a steinbuck, you know, like a dog-sized type animal. 7.62 is the 308, and that you can take up pretty much anything with it. I wouldn't go hunting hippo or elephant with a 308. At a minimum, I would want a 300 Winchester Magnum to hunt, you know, whatever buffalo or hippo, and then shot placement would count. If you really want to have like a proper rifle for like buffalo or elephant or, you know, something like that, or hippo, you really want to at least a 375 Magnum, but really you want a 406 Weatherby or something like that. 460 Weatherby is probably what you'd want, or a Nitro Express, something like that. So yeah, but yeah, military round is a 308. So although they're all going 5.56 lately because they're shooting people, and 5.56 is enough to fuck up your whole day, even if it doesn't kill you or whatever, and it makes you wounded, which uses up more resources. So that's why they're doing that. You know, if you've got a dead body, maybe they got to bury him if they have time. Otherwise, it's just a dead body. If you've got a wounded guy, they got to send him back. They got to have medics. They got to have feed him. You know, they got to have a hospital. That's why they do it. Man Hugo says, going to a natural Catholic retreat is the most peace and calm a man can have these days. I never understood the monastic life until I started attending them. No electronics and lots of silence. I just wander off into my garden and sit under a tree, and yeah, same thing. That's why old farmers used to get that. You know, like an old farmer, a farmer that's worked all his life, actually worked the field, not like had machines do it for him. They tend to be pretty laconic people, and when they do speak, whatever they're saying makes sense. Why? Because everything they do has to work, has to make sense, has to be effective. Same thing with their thinking. Their thinking becomes clear. I've done martial arts most of my life. I've handled weapons most of my life. I've worked in engineering most of my life, or accounting, which are, again, yes, it's true, accountants can make the number be whatever you want, but deep down, we know what it should be, because maths is not an opinion. So my thinking tends to be pretty quick. It tends to be pretty objective. It tends to be pretty precise. Because again, engineering, maths, numbers, and effectiveness is what counts. Wade Wilson says, speaking of nature, how likely are we to revert back to the Stone Age? Think it'll ever happen, or are we going to keep going forward? I think it's going to be a bit of a split. If the so-called elite pedivores have their way, they may well continue to have pre-advanced high-level technology. But will they have the people that continue to build it? And I'm very, very hesitant to think that they will. Because the guys that are, you know, that want things to go the way they want them to go, with like human beings being chipped and all that, imagine, you know, it really is. You guys need to get the Paranoia role-playing game. You really need to get that game. Like, get the PDF version from like Drive-Through RPG. I think you can get a PDF version probably for like $9-10. Get that game. It's hilarious. It's funny. If you play role-playing, pen and paper role-playing games, it's good to play. And it really is pretty much a look into like today's day and age, or get my role-playing game, you know, surviving the current zombie apocalypse with the Quarg. It's a quick omni role-playing game system that I use. That's also funny, and it's telling you what's going on in the world right now. So I think that those guys, that, you know, the Carl, is it Carl? Klaus Schwabs of the world, the Bill Gates of the world, these guys don't build anything. They don't have the brain, they don't have the ability to build the sexy, cool technology. They can't do it. They have to rely on other people, geeks, that they would consider subordinate, higher slave class, you know, so they're like an ultraviolet. So if you got the like guys who really run things are like the big boss, but then they need the programmers to actually make this shit work, and then they need the engineers to make this shit work. And are those guys really going to sell out to the point where they just think the rest of humanity is subordinate to them and their inventions? Sure, there's going to be plenty that would do that, but enough to keep things ticking over? I don't think so. And the rest of people, if they have their way, are going to be starved, sickly, you know, undernourished, diseased, injected mutants. So if you're going to be a pure blood that stays in his own little area, manages to defend it, and like, you know, grow his own food away from the chemtrails somehow, protected from the chemtrails with big like greenhouses or whatever, and you manage to do that, to go through the worst of it, I don't think you'll be quite at the Stone Age. I think you'll still have weapons. I think you'll still have a certain level of electricity or something akin to it, or the ability to produce some electricity, at least in some cases. So we'll be like Gamma World. Gamma World is a good example, you know, where you have like civilization like 1, 2, 3, 4 levels of, you know, from the animal slash mutant slash vegetable plant mutants that are like, don't really have tech. They have their like natural weapons as defense mechanisms. And I would love for there to be like, you know, T-Rexes to come back. I would love for like Jurassic Park scenario to like happen. Like all the stupid people die off, and then you've got dinosaurs on top of it that will really try and fuck you up. I would love that. That would be great. You know, then you can have some proper hunting where you have to like really be careful, otherwise you'll get eaten instead of you eating them. That would be cool. And Cenozoic era. That's kind of where I think it might go. Sort of Cenozoic era. If you read that comic book, or the role-playing game Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, which is based on the Cenozoic era comic books, which are really good, really brilliant. And the guy did 2, and then he did like 2 graphic novels, and then he stopped. I'm like, dude, throw some more stuff, right? But yeah, so that's where I think it's probably gonna go. If Europeans manage to survive in a decent number, I think there is the likelihood that we would actually, well, I think a lot of us are already in space, you know, using anti-gravity tech, and I think there's a chance that if this planet does get depopulated of, like, let's say the less civilized elements and the more civilized elements survive, there's a chance that they go back to space as well. And I think that's actually paradoxically quite a decent chance. NATO rounds, yeah, that's right. Man Hugo says, yeah, 100%. The more you live in this world, the more you value peace and quiet in nature. Absolutely. Underbear says, hey, all high power was Browning's best. Yeah, maybe. Arguable, I suppose, but I'm not going to necessarily disagree with it. Man capacity and Mozambique drills. Yeah. Maybe. It's a 9mm. Yeah, you know, still just a 9mm. Woolly Ram says, with the way everything is degrading, I don't see how tech can continue to progress. Even video games are regressing systemically and mechanically, well, except for Japanese games. Yeah, well, maybe the Japanese will save us all. Matthew Clark says PP7. I think you mean PPK. And Wade Wilson says, Wooly, yeah, graphic-obsessed games companies and suites have ruined it badly. The higher tech didn't help. yeah, it's kind of like films, right? The films are getting all flashier, oh, more special effects, and the plot line absolutely sucks donkey ass. So yeah, that's how life is. Which is why I'm saying, get yourself a little metal lathe. Get yourself that old Winchester in 44 mag. Get yourself a reloading kit. Figure out how to make black powder. Get yourself a black powder gun just in case. You never know how long the apocalypse lasts. Before all the ammo runs out or gets corrupted. You know. We're overdue for a worldwide cataclysm anyway. Well, I think it's pretty much happening. You know, I think it's been happening for a few years now, a couple of 3 years. But yeah, look, you know, if they're gonna pump the next stage of the Werner von Braun idea, the next stage is asteroids. I think they're kind of trying to skip that and going straight to the fake alien invasion. But if it has to be asteroids, I'm just hoping most of them land like far away from me. You know, Australia, Washington D.C., Canada. You know, with apologies to any people residing in those places at the moment. Get out of there. You don't want to live in Canada or Australia or New Zealand. You know, or India. You know, if India got hit by a big asteroid, well, that would be, you know, sad, but possibly useful. Just saying. So, yeah. Well, guys, 16 of 16. 16 thumbs up and 16 people still here. So, been going over 2 hours. I'll give you another couple of minutes while I eat another slice of cheese to ask me anything you want to ask about any kind of guns or any other topic except the Israel thing, because I've blogged about it enough. When I'm done eating this slice of cheese, I'm going to sign off unless there's more questions and stuff to get into. And I'll have a drink of my sparkling water. You know, I had this thing about I was going to write on one of these because it forces you to think properly and make a proper sentence before you type it out. And then I was going to use the typed out pages with optical character recognition to then put it on the computer to then do another book. But yeah, when you have 5 kids, those kind of ideas kind of slip away from you like sand through an hourglass. Wooly Ram says, Tel Aviv would look much better after an asteroid impact. As long as it's a sufficiently small one to not hurt you where you are, you know. The best thing that commends 9mm NATO Parabellum is affordable, ubiquitous ammo. Yeah. How's my back? Not great. I went up on the roof again and I was by myself. So, no, I lie. I wasn't completely by myself. My eldest daughter helped me a lot, despite my grumpiness and somewhat authoritarian / fascist direction. But so she helped me a lot, which helped. But I was lifting a bunch of what do you call those things that we have in Italy, like on top of roofs? Those like roof, I don't know, I guess roof tiles, but they're like, you know, like they're like a half cylinder that's a conic half cylinder. And I was lifting a bunch of them, and you know, I had to take them off, then I had to put them on, and then I had to like bend down and do the like, use the flamethrower to like patch the tarmac paper, and so I kind of messed it up again, and I've also been a bit lazy doing the exercises regularly. I need to do that. I need to like, there's just so much crap to do. I can't get myself into the frame of mind where I'm doing regular exercise. But my wife's also been going on about she wants to do like regular training as well somehow. So we've got to figure a way to do that between kids and ourselves and everything. All right. Woolly Ram. Port cities built on swamps should be outlawed. Piss off. That's Venice. Venice was built on basically a swamp, and it's the most beautiful city in the world. Now, of course, when, the Jews try and do it, it's a different story, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I've never been to Tel Aviv. I have absolutely no wish to ever go there, so I don't know. Underbear says, how long do you think it would take for Italian citizenship for average people? It's quite a long process, unfortunately, complicated by our absolutely sclerotic bureaucracy. It depends a lot with how you do it. It depends a lot with how you go about it. It depends a lot with how much funds you have. It depends a lot on whether you're coming here as like some poor immigrant that like gets a job with like a normal company. If you come here as a millionaire that invests money, you can buy citizenship like in most countries, but then it's like about $1 million, I think, or somewhere around there. Quickest and easiest way is probably to marry an Italian national, which is probably easier done in the States than out here. So get yourself an Italian order bride. Then you got to put up with an Italian woman for like at least enough years to get your passport. And I think even with marriage, I'm not sure, but I think I think you still need to be married for like 5 years to get the passport. Don't ask me because I haven't really looked into it. But that would be probably the quickest way, I think, unless you're wealthy enough to do it. Go on an Italian consulate site and have a look. Also, another way to do it is if one of your grandparents at least was Italian, you have some kind of, I don't know how it works exactly, but some kind of right of citizenship or something like that. Not easy, bureaucratic, complicated, and the Italian consulates are, the ones they're not efficient at all. I mean, like, as an Italian citizen, I have to get my passport renewed, and it's like, what the fuck? It takes 8 months for them to give you an appointment. In Brazil or South Africa, you go in the morning, you give your paperwork in, you come back in the afternoon or a couple of days later at the most, and you got your passport. In Italy, 8 months to get the appointment, to talk about it. Then who knows how it is to get it. I was like, what? It's fucking ridiculous. The bureaucracy in this country is an absolute shit show. But I know a guy, an Argentinian guy, who's been in Italy 25 years, still doesn't have paperwork, married, kids, no one's bugging him, no one's throwing him out, no one's looking for him. It's like, how the fuck do you live? What? What? And he's like, he doesn't give a shit. So if you've got that mentality, which is a Latino mentality that you need to understand, the Anglo-Saxons hear this and they're like, you must be lying. No, can't possibly be correct. At Eton, where I studied, in Cambridge, in Oxfordshire, that just won't do. That's not possible. What kind of uncivilized, what are you guys? Some subhuman savages. But no, that's just how shit works in the so-called Southern Europe. And then, of course, if you get unlucky, you get totally fucked by it. And then, even if you're totally fucked by it, you can try again. Roll your dice. It's so. Unfortunately, it's not a smooth process or a process that is repeatable. It is scientifically unrepeatable. The bureaucratic process of Italy is, think mysterious, magic, miracles, the occult, all of the above mixed together. It's somewhere in there. That's how it works. And the bear says, been training some here, weighted backpack hikes, rucking, great for health. Not for me. I did years and years of karate, and then I did years of like hiking with heavy bags, and my left knee is suffering from it now. So yeah, if the apocalypse comes, I'm gonna be the guy with just a rifle and a bunch of ammo and a bit of water and some jerky. That's it. That's all I'll be carrying. But I'll be disturbing you well beyond a kilometer. That's my take on it. Tel Aviv is a pile of concrete and asphalt vomited by a corpulent titan on the Mediterranean Sea. I need to get over my hate for that place. Well, you know, there's always torches, flamethrowers, and purification of fire, Wooly. That sounds like, you're ready to inquisition the whole of Tel Aviv. And how long with an Italian last name? My name ends with Lini, though it doesn't begin with Musso, luckily. Well, you don't know if you get the right guy in Rome. Maybe that would speed things up. Again, look into whether you have a grandparent that was Italian. If you're in the States, there's information on that. I haven't looked into it myself, but I know there's people currently trying to like go through that process to get an Italian citizenship or the ability to residence, live and work here. One of the quickest ways, of course, to get residence in Italy is if you come aboard one of the Libyan boats. Maybe suntan a bit first, and then, nobody asks you for papers or anything. You can do what you want, including crime. No one arrests you, and you're fine. So, yeah. And, Wade Wilson says you're better off becoming friendly with the people in those bureaucratic positions. What could take a month might take a day. Absolutely. That is unfortunately the way this whole country works, which I don't like. I do like the Anglo-Saxon system. Don't get me wrong, at a higher up levels that happens there as well, but generally speaking, for the average man, your efficiency and your ability to do what you're supposed to do has a lot to do with whether you can get by or not. It's a little bit more of a meritocracy in the Anglo-Saxon world than it is in the Italian world of things, sadly. Kurgan, have you ever named what region of Italy you live in? No, I haven't, and I'm probably not going to. I'll tell you, it's in northern Italy. We get some snow here during the year. Usually, most years we get a bit of snow, but it's not right up north, and it's not in the south. But perfect Mediterranean climate. That's about it. I see that some of you guys are dropping off. Maybe you don't have the staying power for a 2.5 hour long live stream. What is wrong with you people? No, but it's fair enough. I didn't talk about guns the whole time, so you're forgiven. Last question. Come on, one of you. Last gun question. Shoot me a gun or comment or affirmation. I don't mind. I'm not the gun teacher here. I'm just telling you what I think and what I know. Go on, one more gun. I mean, you can ask other questions, but one more gun question at least. Come on, you can do it. No more gun questions. You make me sad. Underbear. Nice low impact sport in bicycling. Easy on the knees. Yeah. Bicycling is the way to fix the knees, of course. Unfortunately, if you're a cyclist with all the lycrans, that just means that your preference for the sexual side of things is diametrically opposed to mine, because I'm a heterosexual. But yeah, maybe, after I get the tractor, fix the house, get an extension, build a wall, and buy a whole bunch more guns, I might get like one of those like stationary bicycles. That's how I used to fix my knees when I was training. I just don't have the opportunity here. I don't feel like biking around. I would use if I had a little cycle to put in the house somewhere, but yeah. What did I hunt with in Africa? Oh, pretty much everything. I mean, as a 13-year-old, 12 or 13-year-old, I can't remember, I shot my first buffalo with a .375 Magnum after, tracking it with a Khoisan, a bushman, my dad and my mom, for about a couple of hours in the desert near the Okavango Delta, and that was a .375. And we used to shoot mostly .375. My brother and I used to shoot .30-06 and .375. He shot .375 as well. I never actually got to shoot my dad's 460 Weatherby because he sort of treated that thing almost like a family heirloom. And actually, I told him years and years ago, like saying, "Oh well, you know, when I die, my dad's pretty morose and a little bit hypochondriac, and you know, although he's been sick lately. He's had cancer, operated 3 times, and so on." Underbear, I'm gonna get to you now. I'm going to get to you in a minute. You just stay right there, boy. So yeah, we shot pretty much everything. And you know, he's got like 223 7mm. I had the 300 Winchester Magnum built, but I never hunted with it. It was more of a target rifle, which is still out there. I'd get it out here, but the process is so expensive and painful and bureaucratic and takes so long that it's like, fuck it. It's easier to just buy another one here. And the one, you know, like the Ruger precision rifle I got that thing is as accurate as the one I've got down there in South Africa. The only thing is it's a bit heavier. But yeah, whatever. The thing, what was the question? What else? Well, hunted with a pellet gun from when I was a little kid. I mean, you used to get squirrels and like, is it called doves? Tortor, I don't know. They're the kind of African doves that we eat them and stuff, and shit, just about anything that moved, crawled, or flew, we shot at. I probably shot more with the 375 than the 30-06, or maybe about even. And of course, shotguns, all sorts of shot, like a pump shotgun. A Remington pump shotgun was my favorite shotgun. I also quite like the classic shotguns, you know, like the over and under, but I never hunted with them. They were just like clay pigeon shooting stuff. And yeah, that's about it, I think. Wow, big gun for a kid. Yeah, it's all bullshit. I mean, my first shot with a shotgun, I was 4 years old, and my dad was like, "There, shoot the little bird in the tree. Just hold it tight, son. Hold it tight to your shoulder." And I was like, and my mom was like, "Oh, isn't he going to hurt himself?" And my dad, this was in Nigeria, rural Nigeria, no doctors, none of that shit. My dad goes, worst case, it'll break his collarbone. That's what he says before I pull the trigger. No, like, Dad says it's okay. Boom. And I kind of, you know, he was kind of holding the gun up because I couldn't physically hold the gun. So he was like, "I'm going to hold this end, but you holding the shooting end." He was just putting his arm, you know, his hand to rest the gun in so that I could like aim it sort of like artillery style. And I pulled the trigger and like I fell over backwards and kind of like, you know, half caught me. But I didn't care about the kick. I was like, "Did I get the bird?" And I missed, and I was upset I missed the bird, you know. If you hold tight to the gun, the kick is not really an issue. I mean, my dad's not a big guy. He's like 65 kilo, like, you know, 5'9", 10", something like that. And when he shoots with a 460 Weatherby, he wraps his arm around the belt, holds it to himself, and with every shot, he takes 2 steps backwards. But the man can shoot that, and you know, he shot like charging elephant, charging buffalo. He shot all sorts of things with that rifle, and yeah. Okay, Underbear. Now here we come. Umberti or Pieta for black powder. It's not Umberti, it's Uberti. There's no M. And you should be whipped. Whipped for that. Horse whipped, I say. Horse whipped. If you were on my plantation, boy, I would correct you. I'm slipping into my Josiah Lovemore twang. But yeah, no, I like Uberti. I know that Pieta is probably just as good, but I don't like the name. You see, petto in Italian can mean chest or fart. Pieta, it's a little bit close. Uberti is just a name. Matthew Clark, only shot 357 and 9mm. What rifle purchases would you recommend first-time buyer? Matthew, tell me what you want to use the rifle for, and then I can answer that question better. And tell me how old you are, how high you are, and how much you weigh. You tell me what you want to use the rifle for, how much you weigh, how tall you are, and your age. It's not as important, but it makes a bit of difference. somewhere, I forget the name, but a Texas company makes some great modern derringers in classic designs. Almost any pistol cartridge you want. You know, the one only thing I envy about the greater United States of America, the one thing I envy that you guys have is the choice and number and availability of firearms, the ease with which you can purchase them if you're not some felon, and the variety. Mind you, the ease with which you can purchase them is, I don't think it's very different. It takes a while to get a gun permit here, but once you got it, you can pretty much buy whatever the hell you want. But you've got a much bigger variety than we have. You've got a much bigger choice than we have. You've got a lot more land in which to fuck about and shoot it. Like over here, you can basically only shoot at a shooting range. Or if you're hunting in, you know, the areas where you can hunt. But like in the States, you got your own little ranch. You can build up your own like shooting range and do whatever the hell you want, pretty much, I think. And that is, you know, you got a lot more space there. So I envy you that. Everything else, I don't miss a damn thing that you got in the States. Absolutely not. Especially the food. And I wouldn't trade the food that we have here for the food that you have there just to have the guns that you have there. I wouldn't do it. So I'm happy where I am. Just saying. Underbear, the S&W 460 is like shooting a cannon, big ball of flame at the range, not fun or practical. No, it is practical if you're hunting elephant or hippo or buffalo. It's not a target. It is very practical. It's absolutely to be used for big game. You know, like we don't have bear in Africa, but I assume like maybe grizzly bear as well. You maybe you don't need that big a gun for it. I don't know. Underbear, that's a great story. Shooting a 12 gauge as a child. Some teach you to underhand shoot at the waist if small of stature. Yeah, that'll break your finger off though if you're 4 years old, because that thing is gonna fly off you. So no. I used to love that pump shot. You know, like once, I'll tell you a little story. Like, you know, people that actually are able and capable, I forget the name of it, but they actually underestimate themselves. People who are complete idiots and haven't got a clue, they always overestimate themselves. So I was a pretty good shot already as a kid with this shotgun, right? But I thought that the idea of shooting, you know, two birds fly off and you go like boom, boom, and you shoot both is like, man, that's like, you know, some fancy shit. So you know, we saw this, it was, I can't remember if it was Franklin or some kind of quail. I can't remember the bird. It was a spotted bird, but you know, it was a long time ago. I was like 13, something like that. And we saw them sort of land in the area. My dad like, hey, here's your shotgun, go get them. So I'm walking off into the bush and they both fly off and I'm like, boom! And I drilled one right away and I was like, and I was like, whoa, I got it, you know? And my dad's like, go on, shoot the other one. Oh, okay, boom, I shot the other one. That gives you an idea of like, you know, how quickly I fried the first one because, you know, I had the time to like, sort of like, wow, I got one. And then like my dad shouting, well, go on, shoot the other one. And then get that one too. So that was one little story that I remember. And another one was, because we used to go on this like Toyota Land Cruiser. And my mom used to drive. My dad and my brother and I used to sit on the roof or usually in front, you know, with my dad would sit with his legs in front of the windscreen and me and my brother would be at the back. Now, on the back of those things, you only have like ridges on top of the canopy, yeah? Not at the back in the canopy, on top of the canopy. And like you're driving in like tracks that have, there's no asphalt, you know, it's a track in the bush. When there's a track, because sometimes you're just in the bush and like you might get into a pig hole. Like more than once, my dad, like my mom was driving and he's like, you know, pointing with his foot, like saying, go that way, go this way, like to chase the animals or get closer. And like once she like hit a warthog, like hide, you know, a warthog, they dig holes on the ground. And like, boof, the car went like this and my dad went, choo, just flying like a little arrow with his rifle, like tumbled down. And so that shit used to happen. And in the bumps and stuff, my brother and I were like sliding around like fucking spiders on water, trying to hold on to these ridges and not fall off. And we're like, this is dangerous as shit. We could break our neck. But yeah, it's fun. Oh shit, there's another one. Hey, hold on, dude. Oh fuck, I'm falling off. Hold me. Yeah, like, and we pull you back up. So this was our like fun, right? Anyway, we stop at one point and there's like a bird flying off, and I've got the shotgun. Sometimes we're also on there with a shotgun. You know, usually not with one up because just in case. And some bird flies off, and like the car's still sort of a bit rolling, and I'm like on the edge of the thing, and I'm like, oh, boom, and I shoot. I can't remember if I hit the bird or not, but I'm like, you know, the kick just like made me like just overbalanced just enough that like, oh, I'm gonna fucking fall, and there's nothing I can do about it. I've got the gun, I can't, and I'm like, dad, the gun, and my dad is like, oh, grabs the gun and sees his son just like fall 2 meters from the top into the sand. But like my concern wasn't about me falling. It was about the gun. I can't get that gun. I don't want to scratch the gun. I don't want to hurt the gun. I don't want to, the gun can't hit the floor. Honest to God, I was like so panicked. Like, dad, the gun. Like I was like, dad. And he's like, well, what, you're going to fall? The gun. I'm handing him the gun. He doesn't know. And he just like, just held it by the barrel. Goes, yeah, well done. Saved the gun. And that was like how we were raised pretty much. So that was just a funny thing, but yeah. So let me get back to you guys. Let's see, where are we? Apologies. No, you don't need to apologize on the bear. Matthew Clerk, hunting. Okay, so you want to hunt. What do you want to hunt? 33 years old, 6'1", 180, Anglo-Saxon. Okay, self-defense as well. Okay, they're two different things. If you want a rifle to hunt, unless it's a shotgun, you know, if you're going bird hunting, fine. You can use a shotgun for home defense and hunting. There is a slight difference in like the home defense shotgun. If you get like a Winchester pump action, I think it holds 7+1 or 8+1. I forget. I got one, but I can't remember. I think it's 8, 7, maybe 7+. Yeah, 7+1. I think. It's got a short barrel, so it's good for home defense. It's good for like close range shooting. Probably not the best for like if you're going duck hunting, let's say. But if you get a hunting shotgun, again, I tend to go for, you know, if it's hunting, pump action rather than semi-auto, because again, a shotgun you can always use for home defense. But if it's a semi-auto, they can jam. They sometimes jam. Pump action, it's like kind of a revolver. You just pump it and you pull the trigger again. Pump it and pull the trigger again. I never had a pump action jam on me. Unless you feed it wrong into, you know, you do some screw up, but you just shoot and pull and pump it goes. And if you get a hunting pump action, like let's say the Remington pump action that, you know, is designed for hunting, you can certainly use it for home defense. It just has a few inches more on the barrel, so you just, you know, be a bit more careful that you don't go into like a new room that, you know, somebody can grab it or whatever. But if it's just pure hunting, then I would probably nowadays, maybe even back then, because I was a kind of a weird kid. I remember my dad asked me when I was 15, what kind of hunting do you like the best? You know, and but this time I'd hunted new wildebeest, springbok, buffalo, you know, birds and all sorts. And I said, I think the kind of hunting I like best is probably to go with a dog and duck hunting, shoot a couple of ducks. And he looked at me and goes, fucking hell, kid. If you're thinking that way when you're 15, when you're like in your 30s, you're going to be like, you know, when you're my age, he was in his late 30s, but you're going to be like 85 years old. But I'd probably just go with an over and under if I was going duck hunting. And that's probably the kind of hunting I like the best. Just 2 shots, give them a chance, you know, and like if you don't shoot properly, you miss, that's it. But so what kind of hunting, let me ask? Because if it's like buck hunting and that sort of thing, then, you know, the rifle's not really for home defense. With some consideration. Let me get to it. Let me just read a couple of the other guys. Underbear says, can shoot surplus 7.62 NATO in most 308 rifles for your information? Yes, I know that, yeah. Looking for an all-round multi-purpose, I guess you could say, for a rifle. Okay, but what do you want to hunt with it? Birds, buck, small game, big game. You got to tell me what you want to shoot with it, because Again, the Winchester lever action might be a decent rifle for, you know, if you're hunting things up to 100 meters out, you know, like, I don't know, maybe mountain goats or something, might be enough. If you want a rifle that's for hunting long distance stuff, again, the 308 is the natural rifle that is a bit of an all-rounder, but you're probably going to have a scope on it. If you're going to have a scope on it, it's not really good for home defense, but it's good for long range shooting. You know, if you're expecting a horde of zombies coming at you from far away, then yeah, you can kind of snipe at them. But in that case, since you're 6'1", you're not a particularly small guy, I would never pick a 308 where I can have a 300 Winchester Magnum. That's my personal choice. They're heavier, they're bigger, but they shoot a lot flatter, and you can reach out. You know, yes, you can reach out to a kilometer with a 308, and you kind of have to do everything right. With a 300 Winchester Magnum, you can reach out to a kilometer quite easily compared to the 308, and you can reach out to a kilometer and a half, maybe even beyond that, if you do everything right. So it depends what you mean by self-defense. You know, a 300 Winchester Magnum with a scope on it for like long range shooting is not a home defense weapon. It's, you know, you might be better off with a baseball bat or a knife or a club or something, or a hammer. So grouse. Yes, thank you, Sam Wereb. Those were grouse, perhaps. Great fun to hunt those. Yes, you're absolutely right, sir. Thank you for telling me that. They were grouse. He's absolutely right. That's were my first pair, if you call it that. We call it that in Italian. Woolly Ram, funny how as a kid you can fall 2 meters and just keep on playing, but as an adult lifting a crate wrong hurts. Don't remind me, Woolly Ram. I thought we were friends. What are you doing? What are you doing, man? What are you doing? You want to get right up there next to Underbear and get horsewhipped on my plantation of olives over here? Sam Wereb, I think the best shotgun in the world are made in Italy and then probably France. I agree with you. The best shotguns, the coolest looking, nicest looking shotguns are made in Italy, and there are a huge number of them. I don't know enough about them anymore. You know, when I was a kid, there was not as much choice, and you knew that if you got a Franchi or a Beretta, they were good. Now there's so many variations, even within the you know, the big names, and actually Turkey makes some pretty decent and cheap shotguns that work just fine. You know, so. We call taking a 2 birds in 1 flight a double. Yeah, a double. Yeah, double pair, something like that. Yeah, if you translate it literally, we would say a pair. But yeah, double. So Matthew, you still haven't told me what you want to hunt with the rifle, but generally a rifle is not a home defense weapon within the house. I mean, if you consider getting onto your roof and taking out your upsetting neighbors or enemies, I suppose that's home defense, but I don't know. You know, don't go shooting your neighbors because they like let the dog crap on your lawn or something, right? Don't do that. That's not right. So I don't know what you want to hunt with it, so tell me that and I can give you a bit more advice. Otherwise, if you go to a range and try some, try a 308 and try a 300 Win Mag. If you're hunting smaller game, like a 223, a 7mm, they're lighter rifles to carry, they're accurate. Again, you know, for a hunting rifle, to me a rifle is like to shoot long distance. So I would get a bull barrel, I would get an accurate like rifle that out of the box shoots well. Because it's easy enough to shoot to the rifle at 50 meters, but I also want to reach out at 500 meters. And if the rifle can do it a kilometer, why not? I wouldn't hunt at a kilometer. I wouldn't consider that hunting necessarily at a kilometer, because unless you're doing everything right, you know, you're probably going to not hit exactly where you want and you wound the animal. That's not cool. To me, hunting is tracking, getting close to it as close as you can, and then shooting. That's hunting with rifle. So, but you know, in a shit hits the fan scenario, long range is a good thing to have. maybe one of the Armalite type, you know. I'd still go in a 7.62, a 308 round at least, even in an Armalite. I wouldn't go for the 5.56. Some of those things you can use for hunting, and they've got optics that are like, you can put a red dot on it. You can put like, I think you can even put a scope where you can still see the the iron sights. You know, there's so many combinations. It's hard to tell you what to have, but I wouldn't mix rifle and self-defense together. To me, those two things don't really go together unless you're talking about long-range shooting. Sam Wereb says, I humbly submit the fellow looking for his first rifle might like a Winchester or Mossberg shotgun as his base and buy an extra rifle barrel for slugs. Home defense and hunting are now covered. Yeah, I was actually going to suggest that next, that you could buy a Brenneck slugs. That's good enough to shoot, like, you know, wild pigs or whatever. You still have to be up close, which means you need to hunt. You need to go close to them. It's good enough for all kind of bird. And, you know, with my dad once shot an ostrich with a shotgun with buckshot. And only one buckshot hit it, but it hit it right in the neck and it dropped it. So it wasn't the ideal weapon to shoot an ostrich, but I think he was running towards something else, and an ostrich sort of came near, and he just like, boom, went for it and dropped it with a shotgun. You know, I don't know what buckshot would do to like close range to a warthog or a wild boar or something. Probably stop it, but probably not right away. You'd probably want a slug and pretty well placed for a pig. They're hard animals to like knock down with like one shot. They're tough things, pigs. So yeah, Matthew, I want to give you a bit more advice, but you need to tell me what you want to shoot with it. Otherwise, I think that's about it. Most of you guys have like signed off now. So I think I'm going to as well, given that we've gone for nearly 3 hours, 2 hours and 46 minutes. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Don't forget to donate generously, especially if you're a wealthy man. There's a very much needed thing here. I need to get a 1911 Colt, the original ostrich. What does that taste like? Turkey. Yeah, kind of like, it's not as tasty as chicken, like proper chicken, you know. And it's not as, the flavor is not as strong as turkey. It's kind of a bit stringy. It's kind of like maybe like a tough chicken, the texture. And the taste is pretty bland. It's not too strong. Sam says, thanks again for the stream. You're most welcome. And thank you guys. Thank you all for the questions and the conversation. I really enjoyed it. Maybe I should do more gun streams. I did mention that in the past, but seemed to be like not a lot of interest. So, but no, I really enjoyed it. And again, if one of you is a wealthy millionaire, please just go into the description there. I've got the like PayPal and the Wise thing. Just send me a bunch of money to buy myself a 1911. You know, it's for the children, save the planet, climate change, whatever does it for you. That's why I need it. Okay. Too bad I joined too late. Many thanks anyways, Matthias. Well, you can always rewind and watch it from the beginning. Thank you, Wade Wilson. God bless you too. And the bear, I think they something here in the States outlawed ostrich. Yeah, well, this was a long time ago in deepest, darkest Africa when there wasn't many rules around. And you could get licenses for ostrich and a bunch of other things. Anyway, thank you all. Have a very good night. God bless every single one of you, and may you all find that Colt 1911 in your life that you've always wanted, or its equivalent.